still have tree debris on all the streets, on Woodbridge, Ravenwood, Wildwood, Cabins. Okay. You know, we're doing a little bit at a time. We're slowly getting it the place regrown. The other thing is, starting last Thursday, last week, the Tuesday garbage pickup was Wednesday, which I was happy, but then they showed up on Friday, right on time. So Friday, Tuesday, no. Today was 6 a.m. Yeah. So if today, and I'm wrong, it was last Friday and Tuesday, Friday and Tuesday, 6 a.m. I was like, I went out and waved at them. They waved back.
So I'm hoping the trash is
Yeah.
debris pickup.
Yeah, I know. Oh, sorry. But, you know, I just keep reminding Steve, you know, don't forget me.
Believe me, I was on the phone with Steve. Areas that we're concentrating on. So I said, you are staying there. He said, yes. He said, no, remember, we're going to do, come back around. I said, well, this spot's going to come. And I said, it's still there. I consider the first pass because you didn't complete it. Why not the first pass? Because you still have to do it. So you consider this your second pass? You didn't finish it. Why you want people still put stuff on that? I'm saying stuff that
Yes.
since the first pass.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, we got stuff that's been there for a weekend.
my street, I know you haven't been picked up yet. And I'm like, that's fine, I'm in there. You know, my neighbors might not be happy, but me,
No.
I'd rather all this get.
But we'll get there. That's why I keep telling them. You know, come on. Patience.
Hammond City Council Public Hearing Agenda, 5:30 p.m., October the 12th, 2021. Roll call, please. Present.
Councilman Diviterio.
Present.
Councilwoman Gonzalez. Present. Councilman Leon.
Present.
Councilman Wells.
Public hearing agenda, none. Hammond City Council regular session agenda, October 12th, 2021. Roll call, please.
Councilman Andrews.
Present.
Councilman Diviterio.
Present.
Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Present.
Councilman Leon.
Present.
Councilman Wells.
Also, anyone that is speaking tonight, you come up to the microphone. Please speak clearly into the microphone. Also, on tonight, I will start with the YouTube first, asking if there are any YouTubers out there, and then I will come back to the public because there's a 1 minute or 2 minute delay in between YouTube responding back with their questions. That way we'll be able to address everybody's question before moving forward. All right. At this time, I'm going to ask Pastor Lamont Jackson of New Beginning Ministries to come up and open us with our prayer.
Let us bow our heads. Most gracious Master, Lord, here it is once more again, Lord, that we come saying thank you. Father, thank you because we realize that this is a day that you've made, and we should be glad and rejoice in it. Thank you for this meeting. Lord, thank you for the agenda. Thank you for every council person. Lord, right now I'm asking that you would crown our head with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Lord, lead us and guide us and align us with your assignment. God, we know that you can direct our path. Lead us, God, in your way. And God, we'll be careful to give your name the glory, honor, and the praise. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Jackson. At this time, we'll have our pledge of allegiance. A member of our fire department will come up and lead us in that. All veterans and active military, please render the proper salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And at this time, we'll move into our reports. Mayor?
Welcome, everyone. Welcome our new fire recruits, and we thank them for wanting to serve our community. We're excited about the fact that 99% of our citizens have energy. We're working on debris, and that's the next big item we have. Lacey and I were on the phone with DRC today, asking them what was the rhyme, reason, or rhythm of how they pick up. And from what we understand, we still didn't get a direct answer on why they don't return to the spot where they stopped when they dump and come right back to that location. But he's assured us that it will be picked up. It will take a little time. We're probably a few months out from everything being picked up. It looks like the construction debris, which is another pile, has started being picked up. So we're hoping that things move in the right direction there, and we totally understand everyone's frustration with that, and we apologize for it. Thanks, sir.
I do thank you for that update on that. That's some good information to have, because I know myself, along with other colleagues, we've been slammed with that question as well, and that's the same information I've been trying to provide, that we're all in the same boat, and please be patient, that it's going to take some time to actually get that taken care of. All right. Up under your reports, Mayor, we have the Kylie Bates. Yes.
Kylie Bates, our Tangipahoa Parish District Administrator, Supervisor, Director, is going to update us on drainage issues and what he's doing and what has he been doing and what he will do in the future to get us flowing as we were prior to the storm. Thank you, sir.
So Kylie Bates, 13031 McMichael Church Road, Amy, Louisiana. Like the mayor said, I'm the district administrator for Drainage District 1, and I think I'll probably start, I don't know how familiar you guys are, or members of the public, with how the drainage district is set up. So I'll give you a little history, if that'll be okay. We were formed back in the early 70s, and the work that we have to that we're responsible and have the authority to maintain was a network of drainage canals that were dug by the Department of Public Works, which was a state agency. Around late 60s, the Department of Public Works was absorbed into the Highway Department, and the state gave the parish the responsibility to maintain the network of channels statewide, but individually for our parish, to the drainage districts that were set up. And the map that you have hyperlinked, that's just a portion of that map that shows pretty much the city of Hammond, but our boundaries actually start in Independence and go south to Manchac, Livingston Parish line, the St. Tammany Parish line for the most part. There's a part on the north end of our district that goes to the river, Tangipahoa River, then comes down the river, and then jogs out to the parish line. So our network of canals that we maintain are about 400 miles of channels. Prior to Ida, the channels were in pretty good shape. Periodically, I say periodically, annually, we clean about 50 to 60 miles of channels throughout our network, throughout our 400 miles. And we've been doing that. If you see on this map, the lines that are in green, those are canals, our lateral system, that have been cleaned from 2016 to 2020. And the pink that you see on that map are things that are currently under contract. About 2 weeks prior to Ida, we let a contract to do our normal maintenance, 56 miles. That's the pink. That's not all 56 miles. Remember, my district is from Independence to Manchac, parish line to parish line, so that's just a snippet of it. But we had 56 miles that was awarded prior to Ida. After Ida, my board elected to include in my current contract storm debris cleanup on that 56 miles, those channels in pink. That was to the tune of about $2.6 million that we added to that contract. What we're doing post-Ida, what we actually started doing about 4 days after the storm, was drone video and individual photographs of 135 miles of channels out of the 400. And the 135 are our main laterals and our major laterals. There's a few of them in the city of Hammond, Ponchatoula Creek, Yellow Water, Beatico Creek, Natalbany River, Washley Creek, South Slough, Anderson Canal. There's a few others, about 12 of them that totaled about 135 miles. That video has been completed and has been turned into NRCS, which is the Natural Resource Conservation Service. It's a federal agency that provides federal funding for cleanup. And so we're running through NRCS, and we're also running through FEMA. Whoever gets us the money first is who we'll go with. We don't really care which. So the 56 miles will cause phase 1. That's people working today. The 135 miles is phase 2. And phase 3 is going to be droning, which they're almost complete droning of the remaining approximately 200 miles of channels. We've estimate the damage to our 400 miles of about 36 to 40 million in damages. We don't have that in the bank. So the federal funding it's imperative that we get it. So we're just waiting for the federal funding to come down, FEMA or NRCS, and then we'll start putting projects together to attack the mains and majors first, right? You don't want to clean the ancillary tributaries and then have all that water go to your main lateral and have it clogged. So we're starting with the main laterals first, and then we're going to be branching out from there. That is it in a nutshell of what we have done in the past, where we are today, and where we intend to be. A lot of people want to know time frame. We're waiting on the money to come down from the feds. The word is that FEMA's going to come down with some money first. So we'll do a project through FEMA, and then the NRCS money will come down later. NRCS is telling us a couple months. FEMA hasn't told us anything yet, so we're working on that. We will be letting the jobs in small groups of packages because we want as many contractors working on as many of our laterals as we can get at one time. So I'll entertain any questions from the council or from the public, if they have any.
Kylie, so right there, the pink lines are the ones y'all haven't made it to yet. Is that right?
Pink lines are under contract right now.
Okay.
So the contract time for those is 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
Remember, that's what you see right there in the city of Hammond. We got.
Yeah. So that's behind Lakewood. I think the pink line on District 4. I'm not too sure if you're familiar, on the map. Yeah. So that would. When was the last time that was probably cleaned in? If it's on that map.
So what we do, Councilman, is every 3 years or so we ride all of our channels and we look at the condition of them. 400 miles of them. Then we prioritize those and we group stuff that's within our budget, and that's usually around 50 to 60 miles, and we do the worst ones. We try to hit all of our channels in a 5 to 7 year period, regardless of how bad they are, because usually by that time, no matter what's happening, I can get you the information of when that one was last done.
Yeah.
I don't really know offhand,
fine.
but it's being done this year.
Okay. And then I guess now it runs now Lida Drive out there on 190, like across from Sanders and Farms.
Yes, that one.
That canal, is that the green one to the far left side of that pink one, or is that?
I believe.
Where does that come out at on 190? Yeah, yeah, I see that, but where?
To the those go into yellow water.
Okay.
Both our fingers are yellow water, and to be honest, they're all gonna. We're looking at all of them.
Okay.
Right now, we're
Okay.
droning everyone that's green, not the ones that are pink because we're
Yeah.
doing those. Everyone that's green and everyone that is not highlighted. Every one of them is being droned. What we're finding is we have on average 37 trees down a mile. 37 trees a mile. That's a tree every 150 feet or so, 136 feet. So it's a lot of trees. It's a lot of trees. So we're going to take the ones, the phase 3 that I talked about, we're going to have a tree count on every one of our laterals, and the ones that have the most trees with the highest population, right? It doesn't matter if it has 100 trees in it if there's nobody by it.
Yeah.
There's one with 20 trees in it that's urban on both sides. So we're going to take all that into account when we do our phase 3.
Okay.
Mr. Cowley, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How you getting?
Good, good. I talked to Mr. Lionel Wells, let's say Thursday or Friday.
Last week? Okay.
Yeah, I talked to him. How many contractors y'all have out there working right now?
Today we have one.
Okay,
Today we have one, and that's the pink ones that are on that map. That job was awarded prior to Ida.
okay, before.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay,
After Ida, we have not started work with any contractor on any of the other laterals. Now, I have four crews that work for the drainage board, and we're pulling major blockages. You know, we're working in-house, but contractor-wise, I have 0 contractors on the books right now because you can't award a contract. When you award a contract, you got to have the money
okay,
to pay them. So we can't put together a project, advertise it, and award it, because then we're on the hook for paying it.
Yeah.
And if FEMA doesn't come down with the money, then we're on the hook for all of it. So we can't afford that. But to maybe answer your question, once we're up and running, I mean, we may have 3 to 5 different contractors working on our network of drainage system.
okay. That's good to know.
It'll be low bid, you know.
Yeah.
It'll be a public works project, so low
Yeah.
bid will get it, so.
Okay, and then I want to sit here and tell you, Mr. Lionel and I, we talked, and you know your name came up.
Oh,
I tried to call you. And so I want to let you know, I appreciate everything you're doing.
You're welcome.
And I want to tell you myself, thank you.
I appreciate that.
Even before the storm, you know, I done talked to some of the guys that work for you, and
We don't
y'all been
believe
doing a
everything-
good job.
Don't believe everything they say about
They ain't said nothing bad about you. They said something bad, I wouldn't tell you in front of everybody. I'd tell you when you leave out of here. Yeah, but I just want to tell you thank you.
You're welcome.
And I appreciate it, because one thing I do notice, I see the trucks in my neighborhood and stuff, you know, in the canals and doing stuff. We call them canals in my community.
That's what they are.
And so,
That's what they are.
yeah, and so,
I appreciate
you know, once again, I want to tell you thank you.
you.
And I appreciate everything you're doing.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's it for me. Those are 2 questions I had for you.
Mr. Bates, I have one concern about the canal running off of Magazine and Wilbert Danielfield. There are several trees right behind some homes that are, the dirt has started to grow away from around it, to loosen up away from around it, and it has, the homeowners are concerned about it. The tree may be falling or something into their home. Thank God that it didn't happen during the storm.
Yes, sir.
But it looks bad.
So, maybe if I could address that.
Yes.
The drainage board does not own the canal. The property, the tree, whoever owns the property, from their property description, owns the canal and the tree. The drainage board has a servitude. So a servitude only allows us to go perform an action. And that action, by revised statute 38-113, is the maintenance of the drainage. So if the tree falls into our canal, then we can go clean it out. But besides that, it's a standing tree that a private owner would have to deal with that tree. And we've had a few calls inside the city where a tree has fallen from one side of the canal across the canal and hit a fence, or the drainage board doesn't own the tree. You know, if there's some, I mean, you have an attorney, you have 2 attorneys. So, you know, consult an attorney. I don't know the answer to that. If the tree falls from somebody's property and does damage on your property, is that property owner liable or not? I don't know. It's an act of God, you know. So I don't know the answer to that, but I will tell you that we face this problem quite often. but the Drainage Board's authority is not to take the tree down. It's to remove the tree if it falls on our canal.
Kylie, the tributaries, the pink, the purple, pink, when is, you said those contracts were already being worked on. When is the expected completion date on that?
So that was the way that job was done was actually a maintenance contract. Initially, a maintenance contract is a year-long contract. So technically, the contractor's got a year from 2 weeks before Ida to perform that work. I've been in contact with the contractor. He in no way thinks that it's going to take that long, especially because I told him we got more stuff coming down the pipe. We can't stretch out 56 miles for a year. That's kind of not a clear answer to tell you that we can't really make him go any faster, but my conversations with him is that it's not going to take near that long.
Chuck?
Councilman Andrews, in regards to Lateral 5, which is the Harvey Street Canal, pictures of, it's under contract. So what you said with all the trees, I take the pictures of every crossing. I think I can right there in that Harvey Canal. That pink right there between.
Might be that-
lateral
might be that
5,
main
yeah.
one.
Yeah, I couldn't
That
see on
main
the map,
long-
that's why I was,
W2L5? Yeah, that's pink.
So the contractor's in that one working now.
You said 4 or 5 months, and it didn't, he said something
Well,
about 4 or 5
The
months.
contractor, my communication with him has been in the next 4 or 5 months, he'll be knocking it out.
And he has an expiration on his kind of, or like
Nope.
normally take, before, I mean, not counting the
So-
storm, I guess,
So
normally
we
typically.
we do canal cleaning as a maintenance contract. Maintenance contracts are for a year, an annual basis. So the contract that he was awarded 2 weeks prior to Ida was.
So he had a year starting then, not counting Ida.
Correct.
Maybe
Yeah.
we'll get-
So he's probably got an extension, 30 days or 60.
Well, we don't
whatever.
give him an extension.
Okay.
And we're actually telling him to speed it up because we don't want you to do it for 365 days.
Yeah.
We want it done in 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
Kylie, thank you for providing your map. I had some questions, as you know. I reached out to you to get them directly answered, and it's been very helpful because I know that I have people who, in our district who, whose creek is and whose ditch and who's supposed to be cleaning it, so I think I have a better idea of what's going on, and hopefully you guys get your money very quickly so you can get around some of these big ones that are in Hammond.
We hope so. We hope so. So any questions from do I take questions from the public if they've got anything? Anybody? I see some familiar faces. Yes, sir. Okay.
you have to come up to the mic, sir. You have to come up to the mic, give your name and address, please.
Lawrence Taylor, 49102 Stafford Road, Tickfaw, Louisiana.
You don't look like a linebacker.
No. This is for another property. Coming out of Man Shack and Ponchatoula, you have the drainage right there. They're working on that also right there.
So you're talking about South Slough and,
Yeah.
and Anderson Canal. So we've identified those as our mains and majors.
Okay.
That's going to be in the initial phase 2. The 135 miles I was talking about, those are in that. Those are terrible. Matter of fact, Anderson Canal had somewhere around
Mr. Bates,
60 trees.
could you get close to the mic, not picking up?
Anderson Canal, which is on the west side of the interstate, had about 60 trees per mile. Our average was 37, so that'll tell you it was terrible.
Okay.
So yeah, that's one of them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now you have one more on the flood study.
Thank you, council members, Mayor. As you may or may not know, we were retained by the city to begin the process of a ladder of map revision for the city's flood insurance rate maps. So this is a status update. Here, well, remind you of the objective of this effort. Talk about what is a flood insurance rate map and how is that thing produced, just as some context. Talk about the tasks under our agreement, what's authorized, what's not been authorized yet, where we are with that effort, and what remains. And then, just as gee whiz, show you some pictures of what we've produced as task one. Okay, so as a reminder, the purpose of this effort is to reevaluate and hopefully revise the flood insurance rate maps in the city, because it is widely believed that they overpredict the base flood elevation. The result of that is you pay more in flood insurance than you probably need to. A couple of years ago, we were retained by the city to take a look and make our best evaluation of the possibility of improvement. And the result of that effort was, we believe, yes. Approximate methods were employed by FEMA in their study of the city of Hammond when, we'll say, detailed methods were warranted. You have a lot going on with the interconnection of drainage channels and rivers. So Ponchatoula Creek, Yellow Water River Canal, Yellow Water River specifically. All right, maybe I should read my slide. So potential positive outcome of an adjusted flood insurance rate maps. So if we are successful in lowering the base flood and adjusting the map, what you might see, or what you can see, is lower required floor elevations in new development. There are places in the city where you have pre-firm houses here, you have modern construction on an anthill 4 feet above it right next door. And it's reported by the homeowner in the lower house that they've never flooded. So that suggests something's going on with the rates and with the base flood elevations. So number two, lower flood insurance rates for existing development. So many homeowners who are in houses below the base flood elevation are paying a lot in flood insurance, or if you're right at it, you're paying, the compliant rate. So if in the areas of the city where we think there is potential benefit, we're successful in lowering that, you'll see a decline in flood insurance rates. Number three, elimination of deficient status for many structures presently below BFE. So those people paying a penalty on their flood insurance for being below the base flood elevation in many areas might see that alleviated. And then greater available land for development, because as if base flood elevations, and we'll show you in the areas we think it's possible, are lowered, then you might see it become economically viable to develop where presently it is not. Okay. This may be hard to see. If you look carefully, you will see a red outline in the center of this map. That is the Hammond city limit. Those blue areas are presently flood zones according to the flood insurance rate map. You will also see a dotted black line that surrounds generally what I'll call the big areas of blue, right? So those big blue areas are wide swaths of city land that are presently in a flood zone. So we looked at that expansive flood zone map and, as I said before, identified that approximate methods were used on the channels through there when detailed methods were warranted. So, and the result of that was an increase in their modeled water surface elevations and in their mapped base flood elevations. So it is in those areas of widely mapped flood zone where we're concentrating the remapping effort. Although the hydraulic models required to do this will take us outside of that area in some of those waterways. Okay, so just how is a flood insurance rate map produced? Engineers, hydrologists, scientists will look at rainfall information, land use, land cover, slope of the land, characteristics of your rivers, canals, and channels, at your drainage crossings, and input that into a hydraulic model. So this is a computer model that models the behavior. You could do it by hand, but it would take years, right? So the model is a powerful tool to predict how the rain hits the land, what it does, how it behaves in your channels. And then the output is a prediction of how high the water gets for various intensities of rain event. And the models have gotten more whiz-bang as the years go on. So now there are tools in the output to help people visualize what's going on, as opposed to a long sheet printout of numbers. Anyway, I digress. So the first step is at the bottom. You see FIS modeling, flood insurance study modeling. So FEMA retained a consultant, and I think the effective modeling in Hammond dates from the 1980s. They produced these models. They predicted water surface elevations. From that, they created maps to show what they believe to be the extents of flooding. And from the mapping, you get the effective flood insurance rate map and the published book that is the flood insurance study. Okay, so this is the list of tasks in our contract. Task 1 was authorized. We are presently 98%, that's my estimate, complete with this task, essentially done. The estimated fee is next to that. We did not expend all of that fee. So if it becomes necessary, if we're authorized to proceed to go back, we can go back and then accomplish additional survey, or we can just not build a city. But the topographic survey, so we picked up with survey crew 18 bridges, several cross sections and major crossings. That's complete. We have that data. We have a preliminary definition of the drainage basin created, so there have been many previous studies, so there's a lot of information to base that on. The analysis of existing data is complete. Assembly of this information into work maps and then data input into the modeling platform is complete. What has been difficult is reaching FEMA Region 6. We're working on that. We have a ticket number. We think we're going to be successful soon, but those are busy folks. So the goal there is, because this is a large revision to one of their maps, we think it will draw significant scrutiny and significant review, as it rightly should. So we want to make sure that our methodology, as developed in this Task 1, will be acceptable to them, and that we receive any comments early so it can be addressed ahead of time and speed the review on the back end. Okay, so our release was for Task 1, and that's nearly complete. What has not been, I don't believe, funded nor authorized is Task 2, which is to take all of that information, which has been entered into the model, and then perform the modeling, refine the information, calibrate the models. And then Task 3 would be to produce the mapping, the report, submit the application, and then iterate with the FEMA reviewers to approval. All right, so then on the Task 1 output, Task 1 really is preparation, so there's no exciting product to show you other than, our preparation is complete, the methodology is defined, we have an internal methodology document for the modeling. We've collected precedent reports, that is, other models completed by other entities on this same area. Other models completed by FEMA, by the same people that are going to review it, showing how they think and how they do it. We've collected data sets for land use, the infiltration characteristics of the soil, the topographic information. Let's see, and as I said before, so pending is the conference to get concurrence on all of this from FEMA. But, we could begin without that, but certainly better to have them take a look and give us the nod on our approach. Okay, so the following slides are just to show you something, just some imagery of what has been collected and kind of what that stuff looks like. So not all of it, but a few bits and pieces. Okay, so this is in the modeling platform. Have It's called HECRAS. HEC stands for Hydrologic Engineering Center. This is a software produced by the United States Army Corps of Engineers. RAS is Rivers and Streams, so that's where the acronym comes from. But what you're looking at is a satellite-generated, color-coded map of topography. And you see that blue diamond shape or heart shape in the center. The right side of that is Ponchatoula Creek. The left side of that is Yellow Water River Canal and Yellow Water River. So that is really the detailed study area of the model, although the benefit area for the city is in the northern part of that image right there. So the topography has been input, and it's shown there. This is a land cover map from the National Land Use Database. So you see a color-coded use by type of land cover. So this is important in that all those individual pieces and parts of the area are going to produce different intensities and magnitudes of stormwater when it rains. So the model will take detailed input of how that works. Now the map is in. The input of all that information for use by the model is not in. So that's what task 2 is for. So we have the map, but then we're going to have to send the technicians to work behind that to input every little pixel of that information into the model for use. Similarly here, infiltration map. So this is based on soil type and slope. And again, it looks like, oh, it's done, but that's just the starting point from which the data entry begins. This is a notional 2D flow area, and that so you can see that hard shape of the streams, and then part of the 2D area going up into the basin there, where we can account for floodplain volume with our topography. Now, in the modeling, that's going to be expanded or clipped as as we find necessary. But this is I guess a placeholder in the model. All right, so this is a zoom in. You can see the split between Ponchatoula Creek and Yellow Water River Canal at the top of that computer screen, and from the satellite information, the software will put default cross sections through there. This is one of those default cross sections. So you see the white box in the center. That's you see the shape of the channel there, that depression. This is just to show you what it's doing and how it thinks. And I show you a flood depth map. So if it's exciting that we have this sort of default information, and the model, it runs with the topography and the information available. Now, it's not usable result, but within the office, it's a successful test of the stability of the framework of the model. And that's just, I suppose, to show you something that since there's no deliverable, there's no result just yet, but we have a body of assembled information with this task 1. So are there any questions?
Yes, how does Hurricane Ida's results affect this? I mean, there are homes that, I know certain areas of town where we were thinking that they don't flood and they're probably paying too much for flood insurance, in fact did flood. And so it's probably great that they had flood insurance. There are other areas that still did not flood who probably should have it reviewed, but is that something you guys have even looked at? I mean, I don't even know if you've been given the data of where there was significant flooding from this hurricane.
Part of any modeling process is to look at past high water marks. So what did 2016 do? What did 83 do? Those past events, how high did it get and how intense was that rainfall? So we don't have the IDA information, but certainly in modeling, that would be an important thing to look at. With respect to surge from the lake, the elevations in Hammond certainly do not appear to make it susceptible to coastal effect. Right? So if during a hurricane you've got a high storm surge and you've also got intense rainfall, even with that combination, it appears that the rainfall is going to control, that the storm surge is not going to exacerbate that in this location. right? And that'll be tested in the modeling, right? So we'll bring the surge in, run the model with the rain, take the surge away, run the model with the rain, and see if it makes a difference. But FEMA has looked at this and does not believe that Hammond is subject to coastal effect, right? So not influenced by storm surge, and we don't expect that it will. But part of that would be to check. To answer your question.
Yeah, I guess basically we don't know quite yet, because you don't have the data from Ida, I would think. From what I understand, most of it was canals and creeks that overflowed because there was too much of a rain event. It certainly wasn't storm surge. So I'm sure that needs to be considered. And I mean, it's a lot of money to do this, and I just want to make sure that Ida didn't just ruin what we were trying to do before we spend the money. Is it going to be worth it? I mean, I know I'm asking you that. You're the one doing the job, but in your professional opinion, is it worth it to continue this, considering the flooding that we've had from this, people saying it's a 1,000-year storm?
Well, worth it is your decision, but I can tell you that Ida will be used as a data point. So that intensity of rainfall, the condition of the canals, will be used as a data point. So there are rainfall intensities specified in the flood insurance study methodology. So they will expect to see a 25-year intensity rainfall, a 50, a 100, and a 500. So those storms will be modeled. So it's not to say that you won't get locally more intense rainfall or maybe a blocked canal that will cause localized flooding, or as some places saw in 2016, widespread flooding with very intense rainfall.
Okay. Answered my question.
Yeah, so with that hurricane knocking down so many trees in the canals, well, I guess we had a lot in the canals, does that take in consideration to where, maybe we flooded, maybe not due to really, them being that low on the base flood elevations, maybe just that they had so many blockages in the canal? Does that, I mean, do they take that in consideration as far as blockages with the trees of different storms? Or like Carly asked about, this flood, some of these homes flooded during this storm, and we're trying to work on this, but we had so many trees down with the amount of gusts of winds that this storm produced. I just wanted to make sure if they take consideration of the drainages that are already there that might just be blocked up. Does it really matter if it's blocked up or not blocked up? As far as FEMA looks at it, as far as if the house flooded, they don't really care about if the canal was blocked or not. The house flooded, so that's not good for them.
Certainly. Well, if we're making a prediction about what's going to happen, and that's a good point about the trees. Certainly, trees in the canal hinder the flow of water. Normally, if we're approaching this, we're not going to assume an excessive amount of debris in the canal. We're going to look at the canals as they are. If they've just been cleaned and they're perfect, we're probably not going to model them as perfect because they're not going to remain that way, right? So we're probably going to decrease that conveyance, right? So increase the roughness of that. So we'll assume that there's some growth back. If they look terrible, we're probably going to model them as terrible, if that makes sense. I don't know that we would put debris into the canal in a study, in a model to predict what's going to happen. But that's something to consider. That is something to consider.
So in your study, can you help me and help the public? Where y'all doing this study at? You saying Hammond, but let us know exactly where you're doing this study at in Hammond.
Okay. And I apologize for the scale of the map. It might be difficult to see. All right, so the primary area of benefit is going to be north of the CN Railroad, up to the north end of the city limit. if that makes sense. So that entire area is characterized as flood zone. There are also some areas south of the CN Railroad on Ponchatoula Creek and south of the CN Railroad on Yellowwater River Canal where the mapped flood zone is very wide. So we think it's possible that there's going to be benefit there as well. So it's kind of that A shape, north of Church Street and then down those two canals. I think now the study is going to take up much more channel than that to try to adequately predict. But based on our reconnaissance, it looks like most of the flood zones are reasonable outside of that large A shape.
So you said north of Hammond, right?
North of Church Street and north of CN Railroad, up to the north city limit.
Okay, up to the line. Yeah, because the reason I asked this question because I'm kind of, and I don't know if I wrote all the numbers down right, because I'm looking at the figures, and as of right now, I got 291,000. Am I right, or what? I'm just writing down some numbers that I saw you had up there, or how much it's gonna cost. That's my concern.
That's about right. Well, more than that.
So, another concern I have, because now, and I'm quite sure a lot of us been affected by the storm, and now we come to realize that the ones that didn't have flood insurance, now they got to start getting flood insurance. And I think your purpose of being here is to kind of get it reduced. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Well,
Yeah.
and in that study, we don't win any gold stars if we tell people they don't need flood insurance, and in fact they do. So if we're not a lawyer trying to win a case exactly. We're trying to predict reality as closely as we can, and we think that in those areas north of the CN Railroad, it's over-predicted. So that's our belief. It's possible that some areas, as a result of the study, will see the base flood elevations increase on the map if they've been under-predicted.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, because I noticed in my area, we had some areas that them flooded, and in 50 years, I know it never flooded before. So, and then I kind of rode around Hammond myself, Southeastern, some of the areas past Southeastern, they was underwater. I saw a lot of areas that was underwater, which I never knew it even flooded in those areas. But I was just wondering, making sure that we're actually studying that the houses that was underwater, because I know you're not doing the study of the whole Hammond, but the money that we're spending is coming from everybody from Hammond. And so I just want to make sure that we're getting something out of it versus this study that you're doing or your firm is doing, and we end up with a $500,000 bill and find out his flood insurance just went up. Her flood insurance just went up. And so I don't want to get caught with an expensive bill paying you or your firm and we still having issues. Because I know idle, which you have nothing to do with that, but I think it's something that we all need to take under consideration on what's going on how you doing this here, because I mean, I'm learning every day. So I just want to make sure that you come up, that you're able to help the city. I don't want you to come up here and that's for anybody, do a lot of talking, and at the end of the day, next year, homeowners insurance just went up, because I know, and I know this here for a fact, one of my cousins, he got a place right on side of the canal. He had to raise his property up 18 inches, and they gave him 1 month to do it. And he just happened to have the equipment to do it with, and that saved him $15,000. And I'm saying that because what about the next man that's not able to raise their property up 15 inches, 18 inches, and he just You know, it didn't cost him nothing because he had all the equipment, had the dirt, he had everything in place. And he just happened to have his house up. So his house was already up. He had to bring his property up 18 inches all the way around. And so that's what my concern is, that the ones that house is already below and the property below, because the house below the property automatically going to be below. And so that's what my concern is. I just don't want to sit here and each homeowner finding themselves have to spend $15,000 or more for flood insurance. You know, I don't have an issue, but if my brother got an issue, my sister got an issue, we're going to issue, they're going to affect me too. And so that's my biggest concern is because I'm looking at the bill, and I heard you say something like 98% at this here phase. So I was kind of looking, I was really looking for a little bit more that, you know, that you can show me why it's important that you keep doing this here study. That's what I was looking for. But I thank you for everything that you did tonight.
Thank you, sir. And that is a good point, that it is possible that this will make the situation, that if this study proceeds, it is possible that certain homeowners will see their insurance increase as a direct result of this, right? Because we expect that in general, the base flood elevations will be reduced. Right? So that's what it appears to us will happen based on the reconnaissance. But that's not to say that the models aren't going to show in certain places it's going to come up some. So it very well may. And we've done a LOMR, we did a LOMR in the past where the majority of the area benefited greatly. But there were 3 homes that went to a more restrictive flood zone and their insurance increased. So that is a reality of this effort.
All right. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? YouTube?
Yes, sir. Joe Meir, 44065, High Oaks Trail, Hammond. How will the new FEMA 2.0 flood plan differ from this presentation? I don't think he understands that this is just a study. Has nothing to do with the new FEMA 2.0.
I am not an expert on Risk Rater 2.0. I believe that's what he's referring to. I understand Risk Rater 2.0 to be a new method of evaluating risk to individual properties. So they will look at flooding history. They will look at the cost to rebuild that particular structure. They'll look at the distance from the water body that you are, and they will start with the base flood elevation. So the base flood elevation and the firm is going to remain the basis, but it will be adjusted, as I understand it. That could be incorrect. But they'll start with the firm, and they will adjust the rates based on certain risk factors. So the idea is it's going to be a more precise rate framework.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any more questions?
That's one behind you, sir.
Nick Gagliano, 902 West Colorado Street in Hammond. The question, how successful is this project, whether it's your firm, of FEMA changing their mind? We've heard from other presentations the other night with Councilman Leon, when it gets to the federal government, the state government, they tend to not do anything. So before money is spent, what are our realistic chances, do you think, that FEMA will say, yeah, you're right, and let's change this?
We've processed 2 map revisions in other jurisdictions successfully. So the way it works is if you believe that the map should be revised, FEMA places the responsibility on you, the community, to prove it through study or modeling or survey or a combination of all of those things, to draw the new map and to send it to them for review. And they employ consultants in Alexandria, Virginia, to review your work, ask questions, and see if it complies with good engineering practice and with the FEMA regulations. And if they find that it has, then they'll grant it to you. So it's a formal process to proceed through. So you submit, you receive an application number, and it begins review. You're not subject to somebody's whim to consider it or not. Or maybe you are, but there is a formal process. Did that answer your question?
Anyone else? Anyone else from the council? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On the council reports, before we get into our reports, Chief Foltz, would you come forward, please?
Good evening, Mayor, Council.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tonight, I'm going to present 9 new hires for the city of Hammond. This is sort of historic for us because we've never hired 9 people at the same time, all at once. Just a little background on this group. 8 of the 9 actually completed our in-house rookie academy that we held through the Hammond Fire Department Training Division. The 9th actually just completed a rookie academy in Slough. So what I'd like to do is just bring these folks up here in just a second, and I'd like to have them stand in front here if that's okay with y'all, and kind of face the crowd. As firefighters, we're kind of the first line of defense for everyone, and I think we would appreciate that. So just before I bring them up, today we are here for a swearing-in ceremony for firefighters, one of the world's most honored but dangerous occupations. When there is an emergency in the community, firefighters are one of the first on scene. Firefighters are there at devastating ravages of fire, motor vehicle accidents, tornadoes, hazardous materials, rescue operations, explosions, medical emergencies, and many other critical incidents. Firefighters are civil servants as sworn officers, following the standard policies and procedures of the fire service and standard operating procedure of their departments. They are there to prevent human suffering and death, to stabilize the incident and prevent damages and loss of property. It's a great honor to have this opportunity to swear in these recruits of the Hammond Fire Department. So without further ado, I'll bring them in one at a time. I'm just going to announce their names. Eric Anthony, Coy Bayham, Colt Cusick, Isabel Oliver, Reed Rayburn, Jacob Stewart, Trenton Vanette, Ethan Viola, and Ricky Wells. All right. Will you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of Louisiana against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as firefighter of the City of Hammond Fire Department under the appointment of the department according to the laws of the City of Hammond, Louisiana, to the best of my skills and abilities, so help me God. And say, I do. You can lower your hands. Ladies and gentlemen, I present our 9 newest firefighters for the City of Hammond Fire Department.
Congratulations. And Chief Foltz, thank you for allowing us to be a part of the swearing-in ceremony to the new firemen to the Hammond Fire Department by coming out tonight. Thank you.
This is a tradition I'd like to continue and also add a few things as promotions and stuff every so often. So we appreciate y'all's allowing us to come do this. Thank y'all.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next item, post-Ida Hurricane Department Head update.
going to provide a summary, and if there are additional questions, we can go after those. So on October 5th, just last Tuesday, all the department heads and the city administration met together to review Hurricane Ida and both our preparation, our response, and our overall recovery plans. Just some background, as we all know, on Sunday, August 29th, Hurricane Ida made a landfall near Port Fourchon, Louisiana as a Category 4, with sustained winds of 150 miles and with gusts as high as 172 miles an hour. This was tied with Hurricane Laura as the strongest hurricane to ever hit Louisiana. In less than 3 days, Ida had turned from not being named as a tropical depression to a Category 4, so there was very little time to prepare. Ida remained a major hurricane for 9 hours. That is also historic. The eastern eye wall, the worst place in the storm, crossed directly over Hammond with sustained winds of more than 100 miles per hour. In fact, the Hammond Airport registered 105 miles per hour before a roof came off an equipment shed and then took out the generator that powers the automatic weather observation station. More than 1 million customers lost power in Louisiana, which is the second largest outage since 2000. This included all of Hammond. Hammond also received the heaviest rainfall of the entire area with more than 20 inches. Later in your report, there's actually a map. This map is pretty striking. This is the path of Ida and all of the rainfall caused by Ida throughout the United States. The area that is down in the far left, kind of surrounded by a white outline, and then you see purples and you see kind of almost bright pinks there. That's the Hammond area. That's the heaviest rainfall in the entire storm. We had some areas that had 15 inches. We had other areas that possibly went as high as 20 or even maybe more inches than that. In terms of preparations, the city made a lot of their regular preparations that we make for both major storms coming in. We began a lot of that preparation on Thursday, August 26th. Later that day was when it was actually released that Ida was projected to become a Category 4. Preparations included from the street department. They made and distributed 6,100 sandbags during Friday and Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. was that distribution. Field equipment and trucks. Fire department checked equipment, field equipment and trucks. Found some small generator problems, but didn't think we were going to be too difficult with those. Bought 2 additional chainsaws, bought 2-cycle oil for those chainsaws. Reviewed a list of fuel stations with backup generators. Met with their in-house logistics team and established a food plan. Police did a lot of the similar activities, checked equipment, fueled vehicles, reviewed that same list of fuel stations, purchased sandwich meat and bread for immediately after the storm, and if it didn't hit or wasn't needed, that would just be used by the jail. Established another food plan with restaurants, in agreement if they lost power that HPD could come and take some of their food supply, and that they would be cooking at the police station. Met with their internal team. Water and sewer. They pumped down the lagoons at the South Wastewater Treatment Plant to be able to receive a large amount of rainfall. Again, a lot of these are standard procedures that we do for any time we expect a large amount of rainfall coming, whether that's in lieu of just rainfall or whether that's a storm or a hurricane. They filled sandbags and HESCO baskets to prevent water overtopping the pond walls and going into the equipment room. They placed sandbags around sewer lift stations and other critical infrastructure to prevent flooding. They checked portable and stationary generators, water pumps, bypass pumps. They fueled their equipment and trucks. They removed all items that were not essential from well sites and the lift stations to eliminate any possible debris from those sites. Grounds department bought 2 additional chainsaws. They established a skeleton crew for their after-storm response. Information technology backed up all of our data and systems, tested our mobile phones that we use. Garage checked their reserve air and fuel. They also assisted with checking generators citywide. Building department assisted with a backup fuel plan for the 190 facility, which would fuel all of the city's vehicles, and getting tanks tested and pumps delivered to that location. They also purchased plywood for potentially broken doors or windows out of city structures. Purchasing established a temporary purchase order system for each department. They also gathered essential contacts and information so that we would have those going forward. The airport had to notify tenants. They had to prepare a lot of their area for tie downs, for debris removal, trying to take out as much potential flying debris as possible. They also have commitments with FEMA, GOSEP, and the mosquito abatement to use different sections of the airport, so they prepared those staging areas. They fueled their equipment and trucks. Citywide, we established the emergency schedule of employees. We updated contact information and communicated final weather updates. All the key phone lines were transferred to cell phones to ensure that City Hall and the building permit phones would be answered. Fire and police already had people answering their lines. During the hurricane itself, the mayor issued an emergency declaration at 7 a.m. on August 29th, stated that all city offices would be closed on August 30th. We really had no idea what was coming. At that time, the National Weather Service anticipated Hammond to receive greater than 110 mile-per-hour winds and 15 to 20 inches of rainfall, with more possible depending on the rain bands. Fire and police had some personnel stay overnight at stations during the storm. The generator at Fire Station number 2, which is there on Thomas Street, failed prior to the storm, so those firefighters moved to Central Fire Station, which is over on Oak Street by Z. Murray. Both fire and police had to suspend emergency search and rescue and all response and patrol operations around 6:30 p.m. on August 29th due to the safety of their workforce and the wind speeds that had already become too high. Trees had begun falling at that point.
Excuse me. Nice. I got one question. 6 pages. You gonna read all 6 pages to us? I'm just asking.
You asked for an update, so we prepared an update. Did you want a summary of everything we talked about, or did you want to go to a different part of the report?
No, I'm just asking. No, I don't care about you reading all 6 pages. I'm just asking if you're going to, because I think what this here was emailed at 11:30 today.
That's why we were reading it together.
Yeah. And so, and this is what I was looking for. Like the fire department, for instance, how many people they had on site. I was just looking, that's what I was looking for, how many they had on site. It's just basic stuff. The sandbags, 6,100 sandbags. They started on Thursday the 26th. I was just looking for, and it's just me, but I guess I'm going to start making myself very clear now. I was just looking for the department head to sit here, and I was looking for the department head. I didn't know you were going to read it all. But I got to make myself more clear to the president, so I apologize for interrupting you.
We could go to another section of the report.
No, I'm saying we got it, but do the people in the audience have this here same sheet?
No.
Yeah, and so.
That's why we were giving a presentation. We were asked to give a presentation.
Yeah, that's why I said I have to make myself more clear to the president. Okay, you can finish. Thank you.
We could skip to the post-IDA response, which is in the fire department. They responded to 160 calls for service. That's usually the number of calls that they have in an entire week. The high pace of calls continued for 2 weeks, answering more than 460 calls. USAR teams began mapping areas with the most damage. The curfew began immediately to limit traffic after sunset. The streets, grounds, fire, and police all began chainsawing through trees to clear essential streets. That took 5 days to make every street passable with at least one lane. City Hall met. We kind of only had power in half the building, so we used the utility building area for our main operations center. A temporary generator was set up for the equipment room, which had overheated to 98 degrees. That houses all of our computer equipment for communications, both police, fire, citywide, and all of our financial systems and everything. Every piece of data is in that computer room. So it was critical to get that brought down to an air conditioning level that was going to maintain that equipment. Streets and grounds both focused on chainsawing trees. Later, streets worked on clearing blocked storm drains, drainage ways. They assessed trees in the rights-of-way and continue to do so today. They communicated with a lot of the trash and debris contractors and continue that today. Grounds department really focused after Ida and after the streets were cleared in clearing the parks and in looking through and clearing the cemeteries. Recovering the cemeteries was another large task. The garage, during the storm and after the storm, the garage team worked on broken generators. We had generator problems that was probably a daily occurrence due to fuel, a lack of DEF fuel, sensors problems, motor problems, overheating. They repaired tires. They had approximately 50 flats repaired in 4 hours, just to give you some statistics that you were looking for.
Excuse me, 50 tires repaired for what?
Of all the vehicles that were out traveling and working.
Oh, during the storm?
And
Correct.
Okay, okay.
And picking up whatever in their
Okay.
tires. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They worked on shift cables, transmissions, batteries. They changed oil frequently in all the city vehicles because there were so many vehicles out at this point. They also ran into issues with their air compression and the generator that was out at 190, so they were not able and had to create other ways to be able to have enough air pressure to perform some of their tasks. Fire mainly operated, you were asking about fire, and our fire chief is also here, worked on a 48-hour on and 24-hour off shift. So they had much more workforce in than they did resting at home. That was kind of the pace that they used. I think most of them were here for the first 72 hours straight and then kind of went into more of a rotation. Just as Daniel had described, they were some of the first ones on the scene, same way with police, same way with streets and grounds in terms of chainsawing trees, answering medical calls, knowing that those ambulances had a longer time to get to where they were going. They had a lot of generator issues with their building generators. We had to shift around a lot of generators. We had to get generators from the state brought in to try to make any of those work. They distributed tarps and ice at times. They unloaded supplies from major trucks. They assisted with moving furniture out of damaged city buildings. They assisted in moving generators and other large equipment. They bought 4 additional chainsaws, bought 3 100-gallon tanks for fuel, borrowed a skid steer and track hoe from Home Depot. The police operated on mostly 16-hour shifts. They had everybody either assigned to one shift or the other shift. And so all of the police were on the street at one time or another. Again, their first response was all chainsawing trees. They controlled all the traffic outside of the driveways and throughout the gas stations. This proved especially difficult on Railroad Avenue, where there's so many gas stations together, and then where there's the truck stops just past the interstate. They also had issues with traffic backing up on the interstates and then trying to come off, thinking that there was fuel available when there was no fuel to be had. We'll address that in a second. They manned all the points of distribution. So if there was anywhere that was giving out ice, tarps, food, any kind of supply giveaways, anything throughout the city, whether it was a small one or a really big one, they manned all of those. They established a pit crew to help the garage in handling tire repairs, plugs. They had to call the EOC and request temporary shower stalls so that they could actually take showers because so many of them were staying put for longer shifts and for multiple shifts in a row. They also answered general welfare calls from relatives and whatnot, unloaded supplies, established cooking and washing uniform teams. Information technology focused on the online disaster survey. They created a streamlined web page for IDA updates. At one point, the police servers and the communications went down, and so they had to open the MiFi wireless devices that are in the laptops of the patrol vehicles so that they could then operate. They created transmission and storage systems for all of the IDA video and photographs. We literally took video of every street in Hammond. We took a lot of photographs of the homes that had visible damage. All of those came together, and they worked on downloading that and storing that. They created an automatic phone message for when the City Hall lines were too busy to be answered, and it was just going over to voicemail, and then we would call people back. They reestablished all the communication and software systems when our City Hall generator failed and corrupted the host server, which you very thankfully approved the equipment purchase at the last meeting, and so that equipment is now en route. Purchasing hunted for hard-to-find supplies. We had weird things to find: chlorine for water wells, filters for gas pumps, generator repair servicers and technicians, diesel and fuel for city equipment and vehicles. They called Atmos for gas leaks because we were trying to triage where we were having so many generator problems. Was that due to more gas leaks happening in that specific area? They helped man the main city phone lines. They provided key purchasing accounts and store credit for all the departments. They reviewed FEMA procurement because that's sometimes a very different process than both the state procurement laws and our local ones. And then they began the backlog of invoices and routine orders. Finance did similar activities. They completed payroll for all employees using printed checks. This taught us an important lesson later. They called the local banks to determine hours and services available so that we could also add that information to our website and communicate it to employees. They worked with all the out-of-state contractors for expedited licensing. They located information to help people select licensed contractors and to help them understand how to deal with contractors when many of them may not have done that. They contacted vendors to explain possible delays in payments. They also researched family contact information for grave sites and vaults that had been damaged to make sure they knew what the state of the cemeteries was. And then they also continued to prepare because we're in our annual audit. Water and sewer, huge, huge tasks. And they're back here. They can answer more questions for you. They triage water wells first to ensure that the wells were working properly. Water is our most critical thing to provide. They realized that the SCADA system, which is the monitoring system, relies on the AT&T network, which was completely down. If you remember those first few days, no one with an AT&T phone would work. So they manually sat there and had to switch the water wells throughout the day to maintain adequate pressure at each site. They assessed all the sewer lift stations for damage. They chainsawed trees and walked through heavy debris to get to some of the more remote lift stations. They began moving portable generators and bypass pumps to lift stations that either didn't have backup generators or where the generators were not working. They repaired generators, hoses, radiators, belts, pumps, major water main breaks. They turned the water on or off for customers with broken service lines. They answered calls regarding water and sewer service problems. They worked with one contractor that we already had on site to help us triage our lift stations because we had 5 that had major damage and a 6th one that had an electrical panel damage. We requested and received 9 different generators through the state and the parish EOC system. The last lift station received power on September 29th. So many of those major lift stations were still without power. They were still receiving fuel from propane delivery, and they were working off of generators. The building department went immediately to assess damage throughout the city with GoPro cameras videoing every street and recording addresses where the damage was visible. They contacted all the property owners who had flooded in 2016 and updated records for Ida. They managed the fuel supply at 190. They assessed damage on all the city-owned buildings. If you remember, we went through a discussion, I think 2 meetings ago now, of all the damage to city-owned buildings. They also worked with a GIS contractor to help map that damage. They repaired generators throughout the power loss. We kind of ended up with an electrician, a garage specialist, a water and sewer guy were kind of our generator team that went from generator to generator as they broke. They created a resident damage list and notified them of repair options and also of other, like the crisis connection and other FEMA ways of getting assistance. And then they began issuing building and energy permits and attended training on substantial damage estimations. To date, we have 261 homes that sustained some type of flooding, sewer backup, or a tree was directly fell and damaged the house. Recreation. They were asked on August 29th and 30th if they could function at the Kinney Center as an emergency shelter, but we were unable to do that because of the lack of a building generator. They had 2 major backups and minor flooding from floor drains that were later fixed by water and sewer and the building staff. They assessed and documented parks and playground damage. They unloaded supplies from several trucks, and Kenny Center served as the main distribution site and assisted more than 525 people with emergency food, water, cleaning, and baby supplies. They distributed ice, and they're now providing temporary office space and center space for the Council on Aging for this first month because their building was extensively damaged. Grants performed building damage assessments in downtown in the Iowa District and Grays quarters. They gathered FEMA procurement and public assistance information. They began the city's public assistance online applications through GOSEP and FEMA. This is where we're going to get our money to reimburse some of the activities that we've already done, and where we're going to get money to help us with some of the substantial repairs that need to be done. They assisted the Historic District with communication to the building owners, and they communicated with the grantors regarding IDA status and reporting deadlines. They also assessed the safe haven for damage and notified those tenants of the post-IDA status. The airport reopened at 8 a.m. on August 31st. They had sustained damage to the generator that powered the weather station in the terminal building until that was repaired on September 1st. So they regained their power around, at least the generator power, on September 1st. They resolved some of the AT&T communication problems that were occurring in the air traffic control tower. They communicated their post-IDA status and damage reports to the FAA, the state, and the tenants because they have multiple people that they have to answer to with regards to both property on the site, key assets on the site, and how they can help other airports going forward. They worked with FEMA, GOSEP, and mosquito abatement that we're staging from our airport and moving materials into the harder hit areas south of Hammond. We received several emergency supplies from other airports. They would bring in pallets of things for us, and those then went to the recreation center to be distributed. Human Resources handled workers' comp claims due to dehydration and possible carbon monoxide poisoning when generators were also failing. They contacted all city workers and retirees to learn of their post-IDA status and to offer resources. They assisted with paycheck distribution and questions, and they handled claims against the city for damage. Citywide, lots of phone calls related to anything and everything under the sun, whether it was FEMA, GOSEP, whether it was disaster food stamps, whether it was debris, trash, curfew, events, which streets were open, cable, internet, power issues, roads closed, cemetery damage, fallen trees, volunteers, people wanting to help, new vendors, new contractors, state and federal representatives, all the federal agencies that come in, and even other cities called to offer their assistance. The mayor concluded the emergency declaration at 6 a.m. on September 11th as the city began shifting from emergency operations into recovery. In discussions with the department heads last Tuesday, when we were really thinking through what do we need, what do we need to improve our response, what do we need to communicate better, how can we be better, because we can always be better. We came up with this lengthy list. Establish a citywide logistics team that will procure supplies, distribute and unload supplies, and liaison with parish EOC and GOSEP for the most critical items. Some of the things we found is that each department kind of had their folks that focused on that, but that we may be able to multiply that and do better with a citywide logistics team that just kind of focused on that citywide. Some of the other challenges we had was GOSEP. Once you request something through the EOC and it goes to GOSEP, which is the state office, they call you back like 10 or 20 times and ask you some of the same information. And it's difficult to communicate that information if you're also in the field doing a completely different task. And so you'd have to go find your notes, pull them back out, and try to go over that again. So having that logistics team could help solve some of those issues. Purchase and set up electronic messaging boards. We only have 2 that are really on their very last legs of those big electronic signs that give you information. If we could put those out on the interstate and indicate that there's no gas available at this exit, please don't get off. That might help ease some of our traffic congestion that we faced. If we could put those out near points of distribution and emphasize here's the hours that things are being given out, or here's what's being given out at these locations, again, it helps people who are going around to know where to find things and when to find them. Provide overnight shelter for essential employees. This came up over and over and over again. And with the new generators that have been purchased or we're repurchasing for the recreation center and whatnot, with some of our other things, getting some cots together, some other things like that, we can make that happen. Looking at if we're in an extended power outage and if we're in an extended response time, looking at a daily laundry service for uniforms, establishing a cooking team. There was nothing open and no places to go for food. But if you're here responding and you're working 24 or 36 hours straight, you have to have some food. So we were trying to figure those things out as we went along. We had some plans and they worked, but they could be better. Also establishing a fuel system to ensure employees can purchase fuel, not be given to them, but purchase it to be able to get from home to work and back. Procure pre-disaster contracts. We talked somewhat about these in prior meetings, but make sure that they cover heavy equipment. That was one of our things that we wished we had had even more of. Fuel, diesel, DEF, and gas, just regular gas. Very hard to procure, even though we had made orders prior to the storm. We still weren't receiving those. Generator repair. Generators were the bane of our existence during this storm. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. And many things that you never knew could go wrong with a generator went wrong. Provide additional backup generators. Provide more bypass pumps with floats. Have pre-disaster contracts for specialty services or technical assistance. One of the people who came in that helped us, that we did sign a contract with, was helping us with our sewer lift stations because they were so complicated. There was so much going on. He was already under contract to help us with lift stations. He was already constructing a couple of them anyway. So now we had his expertise to help us. Fuel could be portable for easier distribution. We do not have any portable fuel. We have stationary tanks in several locations. And to research, as the council has discussed in prior meetings, whether it's feasible to have a complementary debris and trash service contracts. Can we have a backup way? Is there a way to monitor that or to sanction off, spread out the city and say this contractor is going to go here, this one's going to go here, and how we would handle all of that? A key thing we would like to do, procure a fleet of portable generators that are big enough to power buildings and our larger sewer lift stations. Those are the ones that we had to get through the state and that took a long time to get here. Cross-train more employees on how to use and repair portable generators. Purchase more backup supplies for both vehicles and generator repairs, along with oil and true fuel for equipment. Pre-wire many of our buildings with pigtails for easy and quick generator connections. Make sure that the entire electrical panel will run, not just specific phases. One of the challenges and one of the things that sent the equipment into overdrive was the phase that kicked on the air conditioning didn't kick on. And so making sure that the generator is actually going to kick on the entire panel, not just specific pieces of it to help save money. Purchase a new vacuum truck. This is a very big ticket item. So I'm announcing it now. And so when we come into the budget next year and ask you for like a $200,000 or $250,000 vacuum truck, you'll understand why. Cleans out sewer lines and it cleans out drainage and catch basins much more easily. Establish a disaster response team to assist employees, families, and needs. To communicate back and forth with updated information and to handle payroll distribution. Again, one of the challenges we had is we had to use print checks. So down here you'll see an emergency pay mechanisms through pay cards or direct deposit. Equip all of our sewer lift stations, the computer room, the computer backup room, the police training center, and the jail with generators. Right now, those are not places that have generators. Convert as many city generators to diesel from natural gas as possible, because we found that the natural gas failed time and time again. Install more showers and washer and dryers where possible in city buildings. Again, this is not for convenience, this is for necessity. Establish citizen volunteer response team to be implemented and used by Recreation and Human Resources for potential use at shelters, because we will be asked again, and hopefully we have our generators in place and are able to do that. For preparing food, washing uniforms, providing shelter transportation. When we were the shelter in 2016 after the floods, one of the key hardest things was people's cars had flooded, and so they had no way to get from the shelter to their work site or from the shelter to their doctor or to even pick up prescriptions. And so having volunteers help with that transportation would be huge. To also help with communications and information distribution. Update employee profiles to know how to maximize skills and potential resources. We had some non-essential employees who wanted to work, but we either didn't have the space for them due to power constraints, computer constraints, or they just weren't able to perform some of the newer roles that we needed to have done. So more cross-training to be better prepared for that. Develop a written emergency manual listing those key positions and duties so that perhaps anybody can assume that. So if there's some key things that if you just have a couple sheets that kind of give you the basics you can do, have those printed and ready. Assign an HR employee to update city council members. Maybe one per member, or maybe you get one and you share, but that person is just assigned to you to help you negotiate your district, your needs, and to give you updates from what's going on here, because I know that was a challenge. Implement an internal city dashboard with critical information that could be accessible by all city employees. There was a lot of things that we wanted to share information. As we know, the email systems, the internet, the websites, everything was either broken, not working, or was just super slow and you couldn't get your information across. So some kind of way to be able to share information in a more readily fashion. Use an Everbridge notification system or something similar to increase communications both internally and externally. That system can go through some redundant ways, through phone calls, text messages, emails. Establish an online system for citizens to use to access emergency resources. We did some of that, but I think we could be even better with that. And also a way for them to report more complaints and problems. That way, they don't just feel like they have to pick up the phone. They can do it quickly, maybe even snap a picture of it and send it to us, which could help us with more information. Post notifications across social media platforms and on our streamlined website. All of those things were the things that the employees really focused on. We focused on with administration and found our places that we want to improve and things we want to do. If there are any questions, we have most of our department heads here. They'll be happy to answer questions, or if you have specific suggestions that you have that we can interwork into our planning as we go forward, we're welcome to hear those.
I wanted to make a comment about the generators. The generators we have that auto turn on, the big generators, I mean, I know you're not going to know exactly, but ballpark it. How many of those roughly you think we have citywide?
Citywide, that
Yeah,
have
like citywide
transfer
different.
switches?
Just like the city hall, does it, does it have one? The police station, does it have auto generators? Does the
Yes.
fire stations, do all 4 fire stations have auto turn on generators?
Yes, they all
Okay.
have an automatic transfer switch. The
Yes.
problem was that
Natural gas, all of them natural gas?
Yes.
Correct, okay. So when we buy all these expensive generators, do we have a service maintenance contract that we have in place for all these?
Yes.
Who's the company? Is there one company that does all of it, or is it in-house, or what?
I think it's ARCO. Yeah.
ARCO does all of them.
Yeah, we just approved of a contract
I was
through the
going to see
maintenance
if
on it. Yeah, we just
Robert
approved
Morgan wanted to come up and talk about generators.
Oh, okay.
Because, I mean, if they're not working, I mean, it really doesn't do us any good. Now, if it's a tree fell on it, or if it's a gas leak, I mean, that caused by the storm, I mean, obviously, you're not going to be able to fix that by maintenance. But if some of these, I mean, I would highly doubt all of them was that. Some of them might have had just needed to be serviced better before the storm. And if you're going into hurricane season, you may want to beef up the service maintenance on them. I don't know how y'all do that.
You want to talk about what they do now and what we want to do more on that?
Robert Morgan. All right, so we have a contract with ARCO. They come in and they do a yearly maintenance on the generators, which means they come in once a year to full service. They also do a load test on them when they come in to see whether they run on 15, 40, 50, 75% load. It wasn't an issue that they worked. It's just they didn't last. They didn't hold up. All of them fell for different reasons. Some of them ran, shut down, changed the oil, they wouldn't fire back up. Just didn't have all the right parts on hand, which Hopefully after this, we won't have that problem again. But they all ran, they all did, except for one at Station 2, I think, was the only one that wasn't up and running prior to the storm. So it wasn't that they didn't get service and maintained, they just did not hold up.
Yeah, it just seemed like the reports were a lot of them were not working, so that's why, I'm asking that.
They were working.
Okay.
All of them came on, they just, right, prior.
I know, but we need them during the storm, after the storm. I mean, that's what I'm getting at. It's like, normally, that's, a lot of people, their generators, full house generator, they click on and they work, and during that storm, some didn't. If they had a tree fell on it, or if it was not serviced correctly before the storm, then it did not work during the storm. So, I mean, that's all I'm asking. And, we're spending $100 and some thousand on these generators. I just wanted to make sure, that they were, under contract with a reputable company that services them, before the hurricane season. Everything's running good, and
They are, and we can increase the amount of times they come, which increases the amount that we pay them. Problem is, you can't hire someone that's not certified. If you hire Cummins certified contractor, they have to call Generac to come work on the generator for them, even though they're not our contractor. It's that specific.
Generally, what happens when you're running a machine 24 hours a day, let's say offshore, there's generally 2 machines, and it shuts down for 12 hours while you do maintenance on it, and then it'll kick back on in 12 hours to come. These generators were running for 30 days straight, and it was, things happen. They get hot. You never know what's going to break down. They're nonstop, and they're trying to keep up with breaks in the gas lines from trees falling over. So we had some issues, and I think what came from it is I think the general consensus is to start buying diesel-operated generators, because FEMA came around and did a lot of fueling for us, and you're not so reliable on a gas line that's underground with trees, although they do work as long as you don't have a gas breakage. So nothing's perfect, I would say, for a 30-day storm-related event.
All these are standby generators. They're meant to come on, run for, a couple hours till power comes back online, but not for day in and day out operations. They don't hold up.
Question. Do the city have an emergency operation plan? I know that's not for you.
Well, we all have our plan for each department, yes. I would say we do. I know we have one for the street department when I was there, and we're working on a new one for the building department. We get prepared. We have whatever we think we're going to need, and we learn from experiences from like this past one on things we thought we would never need, we actually did need. So the things that we bought, we actually didn't use. We didn't use any plywood. We used 2 sheets. I thought I had windows and doors kicked in all over the place.
Okay.
That wasn't the case.
Ms. Lacy, I'm asking you this question. Do the city have a written emergency operation plan? Do the city itself?
Each department has their own plan, and it forms the city's citywide plan.
Okay, and the reason I'm saying this here, from me being in school, grade school I'm talking about, the school used to always have to do an emergency plan just in case for a storm. And we used to do that when I was in school. Then, from being a daycare owner, the state require you have an emergency plan before you even open up a daycare. And I'm asking this here because if the city had a plan, and I don't know if the plan outdated or what, but this is something that we practice in the daycares 4 times a year, getting the kids prepared, even the kids in the beds that couldn't walk. And I'm saying this here, I know this storm caught everybody off guard, and if the city had a plan in place, and I see some of the things on the paper, some of the things that we can do to improve it. But one of the issues I have in my district, and I see it was in HR, I wasn't notified through nothing that was going on from the sandbags. From this point on, I would like to have a location in District 3 where the citizen can get the sandbags out of District 3, not going nowhere to get them. I'm dealing with a lot of elders. I'm dealing with people without transportation, because I saw on your plan that people was able to go get medicine for people, go get this for different ones. But in District 3, we couldn't move at all, from the fuel to nothing. Cell phone service, everything was out. Even the sewer. I think that was the only thing working in the district, the sewer, because it was coming in our houses. So that's about the only thing was working good for the city that I see in my district. So my concern is, you know, that we can set up here and we just, 6, 8, they got 10 pages on here. We just heard a 10-page on what took place and what could we do different. And we always have problems until we have input, and nobody stand on this earth by themselves. If you can stand on this earth by yourself, you don't need to be here. So all of us need one another, and I feel bad, and it really hurts me as being a city councilman and new to dealing with a storm, no idea what to do or how to do, use my resource, what I had, to try to make things work, where the people was able to come around and do what we could. And I'm talking about that's from cutting trees. Never worked a chainsaw in my life. The fire chief in there, I saw signs posted downtown about generators. I'm one of the ones set a generator up at my house and damn near set my house on fire. But I didn't see those same signs nowhere in the community. So all these little things that took place, yeah, and I can tell you, I'm very angry, you know, what took place. I saw the mayor Friday after the storm, you know. I asked him how his mama was doing, and I asked him that reason just to see what he had to say. But you know what, Miss Georgia May, one of my mamas, we had 1,000 issues, and nobody to help us solve them, nobody to help us figure out what to do. Robert Williams, I saw him coming down Mooney Avenue or going up Mooney Avenue, tree in the middle of the road, you know. I saw him when he turned around everything. So I pretty much stayed up through the storm. And I'm saying I saw, that was one of the first city workers I saw. I don't know was he on duty or not, but he was one of the first city workers I saw. And I'm saying this, you know, that's what I was asking about the fire department. How many men they had in place, you know, from the fire department, from you and we had talked, and you told me your situation. You know, Guy, you know, we had talked briefly about some things. And I'm saying, with the debris, from every little thing is little and is big, from the flies to that's in the community, you know, picking up the garbage. And we're sitting here dealing with the parish on when they picking up garbage in our area. And I think those are some of the things that we need to have in place, because I'm telling you, I want sandbags for everything it takes to operate a city. I want the same thing to operate District 3, you know, generators, everything we talking about, the vacuum truck, you know, everything that we saying, everything that was mentioned on this paper, I like the same thing in District 3. And hopefully the other councilmen will see they need the same thing in their areas. But it's a lot. And for the plan that y'all had in place, you know, was y'all was successful with it or failed with it? I don't know. But I didn't see the transaction in District 3. And so, and I know you're not responsible for none of this, but I'm just talking off my head some of the stuff that I need, and that's why I'd had asked the president, you know, to put this on the agenda, because we sat here and conducted city business like ain't nothing took place. And I don't see how we can operate like that. You know, I asked about the post-idle, you know, about doing this. Just one of the first things we should have been doing. I know I reached out to the president, and he said, Dale, I'm doing what I can. I'm going to leave it at that right now.
Just a point of clarification. So the transportation issue, or picking up prescriptions, or helping people get to work or to the hospital or to medical visits, that's all if we're actually running a shelter. So that's what we performed in 2016 when we ran a shelter. Those were the volunteer teams that we would assemble again to provide those services. So we did not do that for the community, just to be clear. That was not a service that we were able to provide. But that's something going forward, that if we were running a shelter, we would want to make sure those people that didn't have the transportation, we could help them get to those key places.
Well, I'm going to say this here. For me, or the next city councilman in District 3, I want them to be a part of the emergency plan. For me, or the next city councilman in District 3, I want them to be a part of it. And I'm saying this here because this was my first storm as a councilman. And I wasn't a part of the plan. You know, like I said, when Katrina hit, it was me and two other peoples I had to worry about. When Ida hit, I got a whole district I got to worry about. And not only my district, getting in touch with Sam, getting in touch with Kip, you know, seeing what we can do to help one another. You know, Kip called me about some trees. Deborah got some trees down. You know anybody with a chainsaw? Say, Kip, what's the best way to get in the area? So he gave me the information that he could from where he traveled to, where he hadn't traveled from. And so the 5 days, you know, like I said, and I say it again, you know, the fire department, they did a good job where you can get at least one lane through the, you know, through the city. And I just said, District 3, for whatever board y'all set up, don't set the board up behind the doors with District 3 not involved in it. So District 3 needs to be a part of every plan dealing with the storm. We don't need to wait till the day of, because preparation, it starts in the beginning. It don't start the day of the storm or 2 hours before the storm, because I sit here and I talk to certain ones in the department, and you know what? A lot of this here stuff is good for the people to hear. But let's tell the people the truth. That's all I ask for.
So because there were questions about manpower, I've invited the fire chief to come up and talk about his staffing and manpower, and also the police chief to come up and talk about his staffing and manpower, because there were questions on both of those.
I just want to state, I think the point of contact would be good to have during these next, you know, in the future of another storm. You know, the councilman, at least speaking for myself, I'm sure other councilmen had the same problem, but, you know, the abundance of calls that come through, and it was communication to me, I felt lacking with, you know, the city and the council, well, me, as speaking for myself, as far as some direction on where things are going. I think some phone calls may have been, you know, other elected officials may have been and welcome to be on the phone call or whatnot. I wasn't invited on those phone calls. Maybe some of the other councilmen were, but I mean, I think there need to be a better system put in place to where whenever they're calling their councilman that they elected or that is elected in their districts, that they can shine some light on what's really going on, where to get certain items or not, or anything for that matter. And I think designating an area for sandbags in each district beforehand, or some ice set up, which if the generators weren't working, had no ice, we didn't have any, but at least we had a spot to where whenever things did start working, we would be able to say, hey, okay, at this point of location, we'll have everything set up. So, I mean, I just think the communication and planning in it, needs to improve, which, we always, we learn from the past. So, in the future, I think that would be huge of having something set up to where each district councilman knows where to go, certain issues and emergency situations. So,
good evening.
Good evening.
So I'll just do a quick summary. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So pre-storm, so this storm actually spun up pretty quickly. So usually we'll have a little bit of time. They like to put us in that cone of uncertainty, so that triggers a few things for our department. Last year we got a lot of practice, if y'all recall, and we actually responded out to West Louisiana a couple of times, which actually helped us out here. So what happened is about Thursday, Friday, what we did is enacted our incident management team. So they actually come together. We have a meeting. We start planning. We start seeing what resources we may need. Of course, all this is based upon previous experience. So probably the most impactful storm that we have to compare this to was Katrina. And I will say Katrina has nothing for the city of Hammond that Ida had. So it was a really impactful storm for us. So there's a lot of things that we found, okay, maybe next time we're going to need this type of stuff, just like the fuel and things like that. So about, like I said, Thursday, Friday, we started meeting, figuring out what we needed. Sunday morning, our entire department, except for folks that were either out of town, somewhere else, we wasn't going to ask them to try to drive through traffic to get back in, or somebody on sick leave. Everyone was on duty. So over 60 personnel spread out throughout the city. So we had, approximately 8 to 10 personnel at almost every fire station. And honestly, our stations are quite small, so sometimes look like a can of sardines. So all our personnel were in. We rode out the storm at those stations. As you heard earlier, some of those stations got moved a couple of times due to generator failures, as long as we felt it was safe to do so. As soon as the wind stopped, we had a backlog of emergency calls. So there was no way Acadian Ambulance stops responding at about 50 miles an hour. They will not send their ambulances out. So we can't respond either. Just certain calls, I have to make that judgment call of do we go, do we not go. So I have to literally look our guys in the eyes and say, okay, guys, we need to go to this. If I did that, I was the first one out the door. We did that about 3 or 4 times until it was just, we couldn't get around. Too many trees, flood waters. Okay, there was flow. Of course, everybody has heard this. There was water where I've never seen water before, and it was very deep. So lots of contributing factors go into this. So as soon as the winds died down, as soon as we sent a recon team out and said, okay, what do we need? Where do we need to start? North Oaks Hospital was identified as one of the first ones because, hey, if somebody's hurt, that's where we got to get them to. So we started working on that. Then we started on major thoroughfares. And then we started on our secondary and on into our neighborhoods as best we could. Our guys know the routes they take on a day-to-day basis. So it's real easy for us to say, hey, I know I need to get Coleman Avenue clear. I know I need to get, the intersection at Morse and where Morse and Thomas come in on the east side and the west side, we know we need to get those clear. Some areas we weren't able to be clear because we couldn't get a clear answer from Energy on whether the entire grid was completely down or not. That sometimes prevents us from cutting a tree when there's a live wire wrapped into it. So they would never give us that clear answer. So we actually went and bought what's called a hot stick so we can go and check for live voltage on those lines. And hey, it is what it is. We pushed through, got cut through so we can get to our citizens. We worked for approximately 72 hours with all personnel, all hands. It was a little rest, going constantly. My phone never stopped. You would think at nighttime people wouldn't call. They call. And that's people from GOSEP, the state level. We were dealing with at that point in time. We were dealing with FEMA USAR teams, trying to make sure they got where they needed to get, because it was just, there was no way we could handle everything. We had over 40 water rescues that were called in backlogged. That USAR team came in. There were 3 USAR teams that came in about 5 a.m. Monday morning. They came in. They showed up at our headquarters, and we just handed them a list, and they said, we got it. And we detailed out some folks with those guys, and they took care of a lot of our water rescues that were backlogged. We started working on incidents, cutting into people, all that stuff. There's no way we could have predicted that the storm would have caused this much damage. So literally, you could not move street to street. Well, you could, you just had to walk. And then sometimes that was even a daunting task. So lots of things moving forward that we're going to do in the future. But one thing, we did a lot of planning. We had a lot of resources. We actually had maps of each fire district within the city, and we could track every road that we cleared. And so we kind of knew. We even put it out on Facebook to say, hey, if your road isn't clear, let us know. And we used that information to maybe highlight some areas that we needed to work on a little bit more. So it was really difficult. A lot of the trees that were down were pretty large. So a 16-inch chainsaw is just not going to cut through it. We needed heavy equipment. We went and got heavy equipment and pushed through and was able to clear most of the stuff with the help of the city. And even some of the USAR teams, they threw some hands. We actually had a team come in Tuesday from Texas, 5 firefighters. They just showed up. We've actually trained with those guys before, so they just showed up over here and said, hey, we're here to help. So they actually jumped on our main cut team, or one of our main cut teams, and helped us out as well. So, it's one of those, when we go help others, we train with others, we make those connections. They're going to come and help us when they know we're in deep, and we were in deep. It's not a matter of lack of resources, it's just time and time and time. It takes time to do all these things. And honestly, I'm just going to be honest with you. From my perspective as the fire chief, my department did great. Our guys worked their tails off. Our guys would come in and literally crash for a few hours and get back up and say, okay, I'm ready to go out again. Let's do this. So after about 72 hours, we switched to a 48 on, 24 off. So that's 2 shifts on for 48 hours. So basically I had double my normal manpower for 48 hours at a time. And then eventually we went to a 36-hour shift, tapering off, watching our call volume. Once we got the city streets clear, then it was just focused on call volume. So after that, about the morning that the declaration was concluded, we were sort of back to normal as far as staffing. We upstaffed just a little bit to deal with some of the issues that we were facing. But for about 2 weeks, we had an uptick in calls. And honestly, there's days that we have an uptick in calls now. It's just dealing with issues, and it's not anything in one focused area. It's all over. We just run all over. So any other questions y'all have for me, please feel free. I'm here.
Who the one put them generator signs out?
So those were given to us by the state fire marshal. We were given a finite amount. I'm not sure the exact number. So what we did, we tried to put them on all the main streets that we could until they ran out. The fire marshal had those, and of course they distribute them throughout the disaster area, so we were only given so many. But that was one thing that that our Fire Prevention Bureau was able to do, was get those. They, we didn't, the state fire marshal didn't come asking, here, y'all want these. We actually went and asked because they saw them being given out in other places, so we went and grabbed some. So there should have been some at all the major intersections that we could get to. We got those pretty early, so maybe some of the neighborhoods we weren't able to access in to put those signs out. That's one thing that we're going to focus on in the future is generator safety. That is a big deal. So many folks that had these in-home generators installed, we were walking in their houses with our carbon monoxide detectors and it was going nuts. Okay, people were taking their generators, putting them in their garages for security with them running, and we were responding to a lot of those calls. So that's one area that we're going to focus on with our Fire Prevention Bureau. It's one thing Fire Prevention Week focused on this year was know the sounds of your detectors. Okay, 3 beeps is a fire. 4 beeps is carbon monoxide if you have those detectors. And one thing we're recommending is if you plan on running a generator in your home, when a storm comes through, buy a carbon monoxide detector. Put it in your home. It will save your life. There's so many cases that we found where these people, they just got really sick. They didn't know why they were sick. We showed up. Everybody in the house has the same symptoms. Get out. It's carbon monoxide. And immediately we were able to help them resolve the issues because of the instrumentation we have. You can't smell it. You can't see it. Okay? It's just going to show up in your home. So that's a big focus going forward that we're going to try to double down on in the future because we did identify that as a major issue.
Yeah, because the reason I had asked, and I was at Sam's house, not knowing how to work a generator. I got it started, put the gas in it, but I didn't know you wasn't supposed to put it close to no pole. So I put mine close to the pole, didn't change it up, and got a phone call telling me the generator on fire. And I ain't never heard of no generator on fire, and found out it was the house on fire. And thank God my neighbor was able to put it out. Well, y'all wasn't going to be able to get there. And so I was glad of that. And that's why I was concerned when I saw those signs out. And I said, well, shoot, I supposed to know how to work a generator. I did know how to cut it on, put gas in it, but didn't have no idea about the exhaust being close to the pole. And so that was new to me. And that's why I said, moving forward for the future, that people in the community, because, and from that point on, I ended up starting a lot of generators and told them don't put it close to the pole, letting them know what'll take place. And so and that's why I said that, because we definitely want to do a better job in what we're doing and trying to help the community.
Absolutely, and that's our number one focus. Like I said, we try to get information out there, but at the same time, we're trying to put in the people. We're responding to calls, so sometimes it's a little difficult. It's called task saturation. In those 72 hours, I can tell you that we were task saturated because we had more work than men, and of course that's everybody that experienced this storm felt that. Usually it takes 24 to 48 hours to get USAR teams in. We were able to get those guys in fairly quickly. Thankfully, the flooding had went down because they were coming to the mall exit. So thankfully, the water went down quick enough to where we could get them in and stage them at that Home Depot parking lot. Those guys are instrumental in water rescues, major structural collapse. As we've all seen, Hard Rock Hotel, the apartment complex at Florida that collapsed, those were the folks that came in to help the local departments shore that kind of stuff up. So those folks are in here fairly quickly. So anyway, like I said, with experiences that we went to Lake Charles last year, we utilized that to help us out here. And our guys, no matter what they threw at us, our guys never flustered. We just pivoted and kept moving. And like I said, I think our guys did a wonderful job, and it's attributed to the wonderful employees that we have here in the city of Hammond. So any other questions?
Thank you.
I'll be really quick.
We have pre, during, and post manpower assessments. Upon declaration, we brought out the first shift. We pretty much ran double shifts throughout the storm. Towards the end of the declaration, actually towards the middle of the declaration, we started reducing the numbers, given options of how many hours, whether it be 12 or 16. The first several days, there were officers that worked anywhere from 18 to 24, in some cases more than that, just trying to do it. One of the issues that was brought up was the shelter in place and us having a place for people to stay. Knock on wood, Hammond Police Department was fortunate with our generator. We only had one issue, and it was the low oil, I guess, at a certain amount of time. And I'm like you, Devon, I don't know much about generators and all, but they just had to shut it down, or it shut down on its own to keep it from doing whatever it would do, burn up, I would imagine. So they added oil. We were up and back going at the actual police station. So our officers worked double shifts. We dealt with a lot of calls, whether it be burglaries, need for assistance. Of course, whenever there's lights out, alarms off, and it gives an opportunity for criminals to come out and try to take advantage of the public. And it happened, and happened over a good bit. Not as many as some other jurisdictions, but we did have it occur. I think a lot that helped us was the curfew in place, which we were able to settle down and stop people from outside the city just coming through and riding around and victimizing our citizens.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I got Ms. Georgia May here, and she was telling me something about lifting the house, and I wish when we had the guy up here talking about the flood study plan that she can come up and give some of the information that she have, and that the city can help her out.
My name is Georgia Colston Turgana. I reside at 1011 Vernado Street here in Hammond, Louisiana. And from August the 29th, the day is October the 12th, we have not been able to live in our home. We are staying with family. We are riding around with clothes in our vehicles. And the ones that's parked in the carport, they are full of clothes that we was able to save. So I'm here tonight. I'm concerned about having, what do y'all have in place that would help me as well as other people who have lost their homes, elevate their home. Every time it be a storm, a lot of rain, my home, I loses the home. We have nothing in there but studs and the concrete floor and the top. We lost every piece of furniture, every appliance water covered and messed the motor up. So we starting all over again. So me, as the homeowner and my husband, we need someone to help us to get our home elevated. And I'm quite sure I'm not the only one that needs that, but I do need that. And I'd like to know, what do y'all have in place that help people like me and others elevate their home?
So I don't know if Robert Morgan is still here. We were looking for him. The city does not have resources to elevate your home. However, those resources do come from FEMA. There are two ways that that happens. First, in this immediate storm, you have to sustain 51% or greater damage to your home in order to be eligible to elevate. And you very well might be on that list already. The key thing will be getting in touch with our building department, and they can help you through that process. The second way that people will be able to elevate is if there is a later grant through the hazard mitigation program that will come down, where homeowners pay a certain percentage and FEMA pays a certain percentage. The same is going to be true of substantial damage elevation. The homeowner is going to be required to pay a certain percentage of the cost, and then FEMA will pick up the majority of the cost.
That's what FEMA's saying, and they're not going to do anything until they see a paper of how much the city, and even like I call my insurance, Allstate, they would do a certain percentage, but they got to see what somebody else have did.
That's correct.
So then I
That's
have to
correct.
send the papers on into FEMA.
Yes, ma'am.
In which I don't have none of that.
Have you contacted the building department?
I did that in 2016. I didn't get no results out of it. I don't have the paper now to fill out to take to them. I filled out a form, my husband and I, and took it down there in 2016. I did the same thing in 2016, flooded everything.
They have a substantial damage estimation paperwork, and they can help you estimate that damage, and they can let you know whether you qualify for this first elevation program or whether you would have to go through the second elevation program.
So I need to go down there to that office?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Tell
ma'am.
them to give me, what kind of paper is that?
You want to ask them to come out and do a damage estimate on your house.
Okay.
Yes. Tell them you're interested in the FEMA elevation. Do you have a pen and paper? Or I can give you the phone number to the building department, and just tell them that you're interested in that, and they'll be able to help you
Put
through that
in there
process.
so I can make sure I don't make a mistake.
Yes, ma'am.
That's over there where Bobby Mitchell work at. You know the building he work in?
Bobby Mitchell?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the building that she's talking about.
Okay, I thought he worked this way. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the building he work in, the building she talking about. He work in that building.
And I say, if, I'm going to have to get our councilman, Mr. Wells, we have pictures of our home, what it was, how everything looked now, and I would like for you to see that. You're not going to know, I guess you won't know what I'm going through it, but you could kind of have a little heart for me if you would see the pictures on our phone, what it looked like in our home before we took everything out of it.
Yeah, and which I done been through there several times, and I know the city ought to know by now. On Vinedow Lane, that's one of the streets that we have a lot of sewer issues.
Oh, yeah.
And this time, every house on Vinedow Lane ended up flooding. So that's one of the streets. So when I was talking to the guy that was doing the flood survey research, and that's what I was asking him about, which I knew he wasn't studying in our area. And I didn't have no idea that that area floods like that. And Ms. George may know, I've been on the street all my life, and I never saw it like that before. Even on my street, we had a lot of houses that flood on Mooney Avenue. And my house, we didn't get the water in it, but we did get the sewer in it. So
I just want to say one thing. It's bad over there on Vonado. I mean, I've been there myself. My name is Kenneth. First of all, my name is Kenneth Turagano. I'm Miss Georgia May's husband, of course. I've been in that community about nearly 13, 14 years, and really I ain't never seen as, as bad a condition and as bad as that storm was, man. It really, that's the worst I ever seen it. And our home really was destroyed, lost just about everything. As far as furniture, appliances, everything just gone, man. And it's very stressful now. Like my wife just mentioned, we don't have nowhere to stay. It's hard to find somewhere to live. We living with family, but it's very hard.
And you're not getting no younger. You keep going through this.
Yeah, that's what I was about to.
I know.
I can't keep going through this myself because we got health issues as well. She deal with her knees, back. I had 2 back surgeries and can't, I ain't getting no younger, neither her, it's hard, man. So we appreciate if they could look into this and try to make some improvement here, man.
All right. Well, the number that you have, Ms. Georgia May, see what all they can do for you. And, I mean, you know where I'm at. Anytime you call me, just let me know what's going on. And I appreciate y'all taking time to come out, and we're going to see what we can do. Did they pick that trash up down y'all street?
No, see, we got trash, debris.
I know.
It's terrible, man.
Yeah.
Somebody need to come through there and try to clean it up at least.
We have turned it in twice to the contractor.
That's a health,
'Cause I drove
health
this past
hazard.
weekend to see if it had been picked up yet, and then actually drove yesterday. And I called again and said, why hasn't this been picked
Real
up?
bad.
So we turned in Varnado, Mooney, and Mississippi. In
Yeah,
your
and what
district.
they did pick up on Mooney Avenue, because what my plans was, some of the garbage that they had on Mooney Avenue, I actually was gonna bring it here tonight.
Oh, okay.
And that way the city can see some of the garbage that I'm dealing with on Mooney Avenue.
Yeah.
But they did pick it up, so,
Right.
on Tuesdays, and I don't know if the city councilman ever recognized, on Tuesday, anytime you have a problem, right before the council meeting, your problem will be solved. Right before the meeting, they'll solve your problems right before the meeting, but you gotta let them know ahead of time, so I told my neighbors, so we can't complain about that, but I didn't get a chance to go by you all house to see, but, thank you once again.
Yeah, we
Okay.
thank y'all for listening, appreciate everything.
Yeah.
Y'all have a blessed one.
You too.
Take care.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a guy in the back, Mr. President. On water and sewer, guy, he in the back.
Yeah, you have a report you? Okay. Okay.
The biggest thing we had was generated with natural gas, like they said. That was our biggest challenge of the whole thing.
The guy on the lift station. What generators went out on the lift stations?
The ones already in place with natural gas. When the gas pressures dropped from so many broke lines from trees, they just started dropping off. I think we wound up with 7, 8 of them, I believe. It was fire department, we all had some.
Yeah.
They work on, I think is it ounces or pounds? How do you work, ounces? Is it ounces of gas? I think it's ounces, so many ounces, 12 ounces or more.
Yeah.
If they lose that, they just then spit and sputter. That's the problem we was having.
They had that problem all over Hammond.
Oh yeah, that was everywhere.
Yeah, but I know.
That just makes our job harder. We got to move generators from other locations, get more generators on FEMA to do backup generators to back up a generator.
And I'm gonna say this here, guy, for the record, the city might not know, Guy and I, we ain't just met since I became a councilman. And he know we have our problems when it comes to sewer in our area. So this time I got a chance, Thursday or Friday, I got a chance to meet Guy's wife, and his little son had something wrong with his fingers, had a cast. And Guy's wife said, Councilman Wells, my husband put in a lot of hours for the storm. And every time the phone rings, my husband had to get up and go. And when we got through talking, it was Councilman Wells to Devon. And I want to tell you this here because I know she looking, because she sat there and say when her husband had to come to the meeting, she going to cut on YouTube and watch. And I want to sit here and say that when it's all over, we might not see none of these people no more. They might not even hold these seats no more. But I want to tell you, I'm still the same person, but I'm concerned when it's dealing with District 3. And your wife and I talked, and she wanted me to go on record to say that her husband, he really is a hard worker. And I want to just say this. I know you don't know what was going on, but she did say this, and she want the world to know that her husband really worked real hard for the city of Hammond. So I want to sit here and let you know, and I don't do this here too often unless I'm wrong, and not too often I be wrong. But if I said anything to offend your wife or offend you, I apologize, because I'm not that type of person. But when it comes to issues that we're dealing with, I just got to say it. And I tell everybody, the good thing about the council meeting, and I wish every meeting the city had, that it can always be recorded, because I don't like backdoors meetings at all. But Guy and I, we've been knowing one another a long time, and he'll tell you this here, from a grease trap to whatever problem I have, I sit there and talk to him. He say, Devon, everybody got to do this. It's not councilman, it's none of that. And it's going to be like that with us from this point on. We don't have to sit here. I don't have to call him Mr. Guy. He don't have to call me Councilman Wells. We've been knowing one another before I got this position. But I just want to tell you thank you and let you know I appreciate everything. I know you don't have everything you need in your department. I know you're short-handed, but everybody's short-handed. But what we have to do is we have to work with what we got. And I tell people this here, it's like a sandwich. Mayonnaise, mustard, sandwich spread. When you out of one of those items, you still gonna eat that meat, you still gonna eat that cheese, you still gonna eat that bread. So we have to make it work. And once again, man, I just want to tell you, I thank you, and you tell your wife she can't be getting mad when I'm at the council meeting. Thank you.
No, thank you. All right, move on to our next item on the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
Oh, she's got a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Tracy Wells, 610 Moody Avenue, Hammond, Louisiana. Does the city of Hammond administration as a whole have a written continuity of operations plan? And if so, is it ever implemented as an exercise? I read it again.
There's not a administration plan per se. There's one to use City Hall. Like all the equipment goes off, all the phones get transferred, all those things in terms of public information occur. There's a checklist that we do for that. But if I'm not sure I understand the question, each department has a specific plan. If we photocopied all of those together, it would be the city's plan. So I'm not sure what the question is.
I'll read it again. Does the city of Hammond administration as a whole have a written continuity of operations plan?
The administration has an emergency checklist and a plan. I mean, we maintain phones, we maintain communication, we maintain public information and outreach.
Okay, moving forward to my next item on the agenda.
Sorry, one more. The government entity is required to have a COOP plan. C-O-O-P. Comprehensive continuity of operations plan.
That's in each department. Each department has a specialized plan for continuity of operations. They may call it a continuity of operations plan, they may call it a COOP plan, they may call it their emergency response plan, they may call it their emergency preparation plan. It may have different names, but each department has specific things that they do to ensure their stuff works. They may have it in versions of checklists. I don't know if anybody wants to go through yours. I mean, they have the things that are written down that they do both to prepare, to react, and to respond, and to recover.
Item minutes from September 28, 2020. Can I get a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Councilman Andrews?
Aye.
Councilman Divatario?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilman Leon?
Aye.
Councilman Wells?
Aye.
Resolutions none, old business none, new business. Resolution number 1.
A resolution to authorize the Hammond Regional Arts Center to sell and serve alcohol on Friday, November 5th, 2021, from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m. for the Brews Arts Festival within the boundaries of Morrison Alley Park between Cypress and Cherry Street, and the Hammond Regional Arts Center located at 217 East Thomas Street, Hammond, Louisiana, 70401, Lacey Landrum.
All this is an update of the actual date of the event. This event was regularly scheduled for September 24th, the last Friday of that month. It was postponed due to COVID, and so this is the new date of November 5th. The state needs this in order to complete the alcohol permission.
Any questions? Anyone from YouTube? Anyone from the public? Pleasure of the council.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Councilman Andrews?
Aye.
Councilman DiViterio?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilman Leon?
Aye.
Councilman Wells?
Aye. Aye.
Item number 2.
A resolution to authorize the Hammond Regional Arts Center to obtain a waiver of the open container law on Friday, November 5th, 2021, from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m. for the Bruce Arts Festival within the boundaries of Morrison Alley Park between Cypress and Cherry Street, and the Hammond Regional Arts Center located at 217 East Thomas Street, Hammond, Louisiana, 70401, Lacey Landrum.
Just the date change. You had already approved September 24th. This is just changing it to November 5th.
Anyone from YouTube? Anyone from the audience? Pleasure of the council.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Councilman Andrews?
Aye.
Councilman DiViterio?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilman Leon?
Aye.
Councilman Wells?
Aye.
Item number 3.
Item number 3, a resolution to approve Roller Kingdom located at 210 Hewitt Road, Hammond, Louisiana, 70403, for high-low alcohol approval on premise, the ownership as Roller Kingdom LLC, Laura Hammond.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So as she said, we're here to ask permission or approval for Roller King LLC. They are going to have an oldies night on Thursdays for adults, and she would like to serve alcohol on Thursdays at this time. She's met all the requirements that I've asked of her, the zoning, background check, all those kind of things. So we are seeking her approval. And she is here in the audience, Letha James, and she's in District 3, Councilman Wells.
I know. Thank you. You can come up, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I wish I was dressed. I'm here to bring some good stuff to the community, which we've already have. I'm a retired teacher, and I'm all about children and families. So you should see a lot of that coming, a lot of goodness with our children that don't have any place to go, any place to enjoy themselves, and plus to give back to the community. So thank you for allowing me to serve in Hammond. My name is Letha Rimble James.
Thank you, Ms. James. Anyone from YouTube? Anyone from the public? Pleasure of the council.
Ms. James, you have a great facility over there. You know, I've been a few times with the kids and the family. I guess alcohol and roller skating, I don't know how that works together, but good luck to you. You guys are going to card and make sure everyone knows the drinking ages and everything like that.
Yes,
and
my teaching abilities are going to kick in. I promise you that we will be all about families and children. That's what I'm about.
I know you're a stickler for the rules, so
I
keep
am.
them out of the parking lot and
am.
all that. Yep.
I'm walking the ring. I'm surveying everything. Nothing's going to happen on my watch or my staff's watch. Like I said, I'm honored to serve. I'm honored to give back. So you should be hearing lots and lots of good things from that area. Lots and lots.
Thank you.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Councilman Andrews?
Aye.
Councilman DiViterio?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilman Leon?
Aye.
Councilman Wells?
Aye.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank
Guys,
you.
so very, very much.
Good luck.
If you haven't visited us, come visit us with your family. You're going to have a really, really good time, and you're going to get in shape like me. I was out of shape for like 4 months, but now that I put on my skates, it's lots of work. So thank you guys so very, very much.
Item number 4.
A resolution to approve alcohol renewals for 2022, Laura Hammond.
Hi, again, so this is our annual renewal of alcohol license for every business that sells alcohol within the city limits. There is 113 on that list. I would like to make an addition to 114 to include Roller Kingdom on tonight's approval. So we're coming to you early because we start sending these out sometime in the end of this month. Get it to the guys that need to get it done. We asked several things, sales tax clearance, notarized dockets, and different things for them. It's due December 1st, and so this should give them enough time to accomplish what we asked for them.
Ms. Laura, how you doing?
Good evening.
Okay. You ain't got to be scared. I don't have no trick question. This actually for the president. I know last year you had a problem with 2 of them on your side of town. So are those 2 good this year?
Everything's fine. We haven't had any major issues or anything with those establishments. For the most part, they've been good at policing themselves. So everything's been working out pretty good.
Okay. See that, Ms. Laura? You ain't even have to say
Well,
that.
I'll add that no one mentioned anything to me prior to this. I didn't.
No, I knew last year we had a problem with
Yeah.
it. And that's why I just brought it up. That's it. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Wait, do we have?
Just for the record, that includes the one that the list you provided plus Roller
Plus the-
Kingdom to the list.
The new
From
one.
tonight.
Yes.
Okay.
So a total of 114.
Councilman Andrews?
Aye.
Councilman Divatario?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Abstain.
Councilman Leon?
Aye.
Thank you,
Councilman Wells?
Aye.
Resolution number 5.
A resolution to adopt the Louisiana Compliance Questionnaire for fiscal year 2020-2021, and to authorize the mayor to sign the questionnaire. Lacey Landrum.
This is the annual questionnaire that originates at the Louisiana Legislative Auditor. It is required that we complete this questionnaire. You'll notice that all of the questions center on state law and how we follow those laws, whether that is taking minutes at meetings like this, whether that's our public bid law, whether it's laws about the budget and how that's passed. All those are certified here that go along with municipalities. Our agency profile is right there in the front, and this is a standard document that we do each year. We give to the auditors who are currently doing our in-house audit, and then it originates from there.
Any questions from anyone on the council? Any questions from YouTube?
No, sir.
Any questions from anyone in the audience? Pleasure of the council.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Councilman Andrews?
Aye.
Councilman Divatario?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilman Leon?
Aye.
Councilman Wells?
Aye.
One more note, just for the council, we are going through the audit. I know that the letters and the questionnaire went to each council person today, and so if you'll just take a look at that, fill that out, it goes back directly to the auditors. If you have any questions at any time, Chris is our main person in-house, but you've spoken with Michelle. She's done the presentations in the past as well. Same people conducting the audit. They're happy to answer any questions at any time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution number 6.
A resolution accepting a $250,000 grant from the Land and Water Conservation Fund for improvements to Mooney Avenue Park, approving a cash match of $250,000 for the grant match fund, and authorizing the mayor and his designee to complete and sign a related document. Charles Borscher.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So this is one I know I've been saying has been coming for a while. It's finally here. We've been notified that we received the $250,000 grant for improvements to Mooney Avenue Park. The council had previously basically obligated the $250,000 match, so this is just formalizing us being able to accept the grant award, sign the contract and other related documents, and hopefully get things started soon. Any questions?
There's any questions for anyone from YouTube? Yes, sir. Anyone from the public? Anyone from the council? Pleasure of the council.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Councilman Andrews.
Aye.
Councilman Divatario.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilman Leon.
Aye.
Councilman Wells.
Aye.
Resolution number 7.
Resolution number 7, a resolution accepting $136,561.82 in available grant funds for the Transportation Improvement Program for the improvement and expansion of city bus stops, approving a cash match of $24,930.08 from the Grant Match Fund and authorizing the mayor or his designee to complete and sign related documents. Charles Borscher.
So this one and the next one are actually related. This can get very technical, so I'll try to make it as simple as possible. These funds are federal funds that come to us through a multi-year plan called TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program. They actually go back a number of years. Suffice to say that we were approved to receive up to $185,000. We were approved to expend up to $185,000, of which $37,000, or 20%, is our match requirement. We did an initial round of bus stop improvements a couple of years ago. We've been working toward a second round of improvements. COVID has really complicated that. But in a nutshell, we're at the point now where we've got a successful bid that came in. It's within our budget, our available budget. All we need to do is obligate the remaining match to make that purchase. We have some match that we previously obligated. This is the difference to get us up to $37,000. I know that's kind of confusing, but
Well, who's the point of contact for like that kind of heads or leads that transportation routes and everything? Like who do they answer to, the transportation? Is that city or is that? Is that who it is? Yeah, whoever's the head of the transportation, I mean, the buses, who's the head guy for the buses of Hammond, the transportation?
within the city? Or?
Yes, in the city.
So I guess
Hammond
right now
City.
it's me.
Okay.
Well, they contract, though. You don't run the buses.
Yeah, I don't run the buses.
But any concerns, questions that come in regarding the bus stops in Hammond, Louisiana, at any of the bus stops, who's the head point of contact to ask any questions to or any concerns from the residents?
So there were 2 points of contact I would give you. Myself, because the grants department's been heavily involved in providing new bus stops, improving the route, improving the schedule, et cetera, putting out more information. The Council on Aging, as you know, is our contracted operator. So you can also contact the Council on Aging. But it may be quicker if there's a concern, if there's a comment, if there's a suggestion, to communicate that to me. Because when it comes to where we're spending our money on our improvements, where we're talking about route changes or schedule changes, I'm kind of the point of contact until this isn't a grant-funded project anymore for the city.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard you say something. You done sent out bids or something? What did you say?
So the way these federal funds work, the parish receives the funds and passes them on to us. So the parish has to actually put the projects out for bid.
Okay.
This is the third time we've tried to bid out the bus stop shelters. This is the first time we're in a position where the bids have come in and they're not crazy. Well, we're going to talk about that on the next one. But
okay, all right.
Yeah.
Anyone from YouTube? Anyone from the public? Pleasure of the council.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Councilman Andrews?
Aye.
Councilman Divatario?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilman Leon?
Aye.
Councilman Wells?
Aye.
Resolution number 8.
A resolution approving the purchase of 18 bus stop shelters from Superior Recreational Products for $144,479.70 per bids received by Tangipahoa Parish Government, September 27, 2021, using funds available under Project 31709, Bus Stop Improvements. The total cost to the city will be $28,895.94, 20% grant match. Charles Brosher.
So this is the other part of that. As the resolution states, we received a low bid from Superior Recreational Products. I should say the parish received a low bid from Superior Recreational Products, which is the manufacturer of the current shelters that we have, for $144,479.70. Our share of that cost would be 20%, or $28,895.94. After passing that previous resolution, we now have that available to spend on the bus stop shelters. This map up here, a couple of quick comments. This is not the typical bus stop map. I went ahead and overlaid the district map so it was clearer to the council where bus stops are proposed. There's a couple of different colors going on here. If we go strictly by bus ridership, the numbered stops are where we'll be putting bus stops, roughly in those locations. We're going to look at things like available rights-of-way and servitude, et cetera, to make sure we can locate them in safe locations. But generally, where you see the numbers, where the stop would go. So the stops in red that are numbered would be new stops. There's a lighter blue color on the map, which is stops that are going to be improved. So there's something there already. It could be a sign, it could be a bench, it might just need a shelter. And then the ones in dark blue are completed. So the one at North Oaks, for example, toward the south, that's a full stop. It's sheltered, it's got benches, it's got a waste receptacle. We wouldn't be doing anything new there. The two lines that you see in red are potential routing options. And these are based on a couple of factors. These are based on conversations with the Council on Aging. They're based on feedback we've received from the community, in some cases from members of the council. Conversations we've had with the parish about trying to kind of capture some areas. Range Road, a lot of Range Road kind of is situated between Ponchatoula and Hammond. It's outside of both of our city limits. But there's been talk about if we could put a bus stop there, it could help connect the cities along Range Road. So you see a potential routing option, instead of going up Coleman and then kind of going up Morris, you would head south on Railroad, head east on Old Covington, and then go up Range Road. And that potentially would allow us to locate a stop somewhere around Range Road. Again, to connect us potentially with the city of Ponchatoula to our south. The other potential routing change is along Church Street. That's that red line to the left. Instead of the bus coming straight down Pecan Street, it would head west on Church and then come south down Market Street and then connect back to Thomas. There would be one little loop that would have to happen, and that's in the Winn-Dixie area, where on the way back it would have to loop back through to catch that stop. These are just some options to kind of put stops a little bit closer to neighborhoods. On Church Street in District 4, we know we've got a lot of residents that live on that side of, not necessarily of the tracks, but we know that that's closer to those communities that live north of Church Street. These are options. The reason those two red circles are not numbered is that we would have to backfill that with an existing stop. There's some potential of moving some stops from other areas, or if we end up not putting a full stop everywhere, in some cases we're able to take advantage of existing structures so we don't have to put a shelter there. That would allow us to potentially put a shelter somewhere else, or put benches somewhere else, or even work with a private property owner that wants a a shelter at their business or a bus stop at their business. So these are options, and none of this is finalized. As I said, we've been using the data we've been collecting from the Council on Aging. We've got the data going back now to mid-2014, and that's been kind of what we've used to make decisions about where we locate stops. So where you see the numbered stops are based solely on that data. Any questions?
Is there anyone from YouTube? No, sir. Anyone from the public? Anyone from the council? Pleasure of the council?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Councilman Andrews?
Aye.
Councilman Diviterio?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilman Leon?
Aye.
Councilman Wells?
Aye.
Resolution number 9.
A resolution authorizing Lisa Cockerham, Hammond City Council Clerk, to certify authorized signators and signatures for the city's anticipated fiscal year 2020 through 2021 local government assistance program and community water enrichment fund grants.
I'll just want to make one point of clarification. I know there was a typo, I think, on one of the agendas. It is the 2020-21, not the 2021-22. These are applications that we submitted with council's support end of last year around, actually, it was either end of last year or very early this year. I've just received the contract on the LGAP, Louisiana Government Assistance Program grant, and we're anticipating the Community Water Enrichment Fund grant to come very soon as well. As a requirement under those programs, we have to provide a signature card which identifies the names and has actual signatures of anyone that might sign off on grant-related documents. So in this case, it would be the mayor, Lacey, our finance director, Laura, and then myself. We would be the 4 authorized signatories on grant-related documents. And that's following pretty much what we've done in the past. I would be the addition in that scenario. I'm the one that completes the forms as it is, so it just helps us get those forms submitted for reimbursement a bit earlier. And we've typically used our council clerk to certify those signatures when the mayor is one of those signatures.
Anyone from YouTube? No, sir. Anyone from the public? Anyone from the council? Pleasure of the council.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
And just to be clear, it's going to be for the years 2020 to 2021.
Yep.
Kip, I think. Kip, were you second? Yeah.
Councilman Andrews?
Aye.
Councilman Diviterio?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilman Leon? Councilman Wells?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
All right, final adoption for ordinance, none. Introduction for ordinance to be set for public hearing, none. Old business.
Introduction of an ordinance to transfer $750,000 from the Sales Tax Fund 203 ending fund balance to capital expenditures to provide for sewer system improvements, 2 lift stations, SSES, and sewer rehabilitation. Lacey Landry.
So I'm pulling up the prior meeting notice from April 13th. About a week prior to this April 13th meeting, we had a meeting in this room with Councilman Andrews and Wells. We discussed a solution to the sewer problem that we were continuing to see in District 3. And Chuck drew up a cost estimate based on that discussion that was also introduced on April 13th as part of this. So in this $750,000 plan, it was to install a new lift station at Mississippi Street. It was to upgrade the lift station at Mooney. and it was to also provide some funds for SSES and for rehab of the lines. You'll see at the bottom of this that all that was focused on solving the sewer problem in District 3, which was listed right there. At that meeting on April 13th, this $750,000 was tabled by the council. Later, when we went through all of the budget discussion, these items were added into the budget, and it was proposed as part of the mayor's budget to continue with these upgrades. So in your budget book, which I think you all have copies of this part that was approved because we wanted to make sure we were all looking at the same pages now. In the approved budget, and I could go to the link online and find that page if we want to look at that as well. There was $240,000 allocated for the Mooney lift station upgrade. There was $370,000 allocated for the new lift station at Mississippi. We also did some reconfiguration of force mains that will also improve the sewer in this district. That was $390,000. And then towards the bottom, you'll see we had our stimulus money come down from the federal government. So there's $800,000 dedicated to SSES, and there was $2.2 million dedicated to rehabilitation of the sewer lines. You approved this budget in June. So these projects have already been approved. So Chuck is here tonight to give you an update on these projects, but you don't need to introduce a new ordinance to transfer $750,000 from the sales tax fund balance because these projects are already funded. Chuck, do you want to give just a quick update on where you are with design and kind of a timeline for bidding?
Well, the two lift station projects are ready to go. The reconfiguration of the force mains is a little difficult to describe, but I'll do it as simply as possible. I don't say things simply. I know I'll apologize for that. There are 6 force mains on Mooney coming from all over town. And when they get to the south plant, they manifold into a single 18-inch pipe. This is all underground. It's not visible. And when the rains come and all the stations get full of water, they're all pumping into one single 18-inch line. That 18-inch line effectively chokes down the small stations. The big stations with the high horsepower are the only ones that work effectively. So what my proposal was, and it's in this budget, and I still recommend we pursue it, was to separate these force mains, pump them directly to the pond where there is no impedance to the flow during rain. That work is underway. We've been down there. Devon said he's seen all the markings and so forth down there. We've been through, anytime you do a buried line in the state of Louisiana, you're required to call Louisiana One Call. We called Louisiana One Call in July when the project was approved. We called them again in August. They staked about half of it. They didn't finish. We called them a third time right before the storm, and they've just been staked again this week or maybe last week. You may have seen something.
Last week.
It hasn't been long. It's been the last 3 days. So my survey crews, we're going to have to overlay Mooney because my survey crews are wearing out the asphalt, walking up and down the road, surveying it over and over. So I'm kind of grinding my milk. The answer is, the mayor asked me to expedite the project. I'm attempting to expedite the project until it'll be ready by the end of October, and it will be ready by the end of October, one way or the other. So that's what we're talking about doing. There are a couple of things we have not discussed, generators being one. We don't have a generator at Mooney. I don't know if that's something we want to do for resiliency or not. That's $40,000, $50,000. That's not in that number. Maybe we can do it later. We always put in our electrical a manual transfer switch and an automatic transfer switch so that if you do set a generator on a pad down the road, you have an automatic transfer switch. It's basically plug and play. That's all out there if you don't want to spring for a generator at the moment. And there's something I'd like to do at the south plant that's relatively costly that I was Mayor told me don't put it in the base bid because it's going to bust the budget, so I'm putting it in as an alternate. That's called a mechanical screen to screen solids out of our flow before they get to the pond, because we don't want a bunch of handy wipes and Pampers and all floating in our pond. And if I don't have a screen, that stuff shows up in the pond. That's a nice item, but it isn't necessary to solve our high flow problems. That's just something I'm trying to do to help our treatment process once we put this stuff in our pond. So the answer is the project will be ready, it'll be released at the end of this month. So far, we're working, believe it or not, 7 days a week. We're trying to work. I was down for 4 weeks with no office or very little office. I had 5 out of 14 offices shut down for rain and for mold and sheetrock kind of problems you don't need to hear about. Doesn't matter. We continued to work. But now we're up to full speed, and we're working. We all worked Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and Monday. Monday was a holiday, as it was for the city, and we all worked Monday. So we're working on it. I expect to have it finished. I'm waiting to locate the force mains now that I have my last utilities located. I have a contractor coming in this week. He promises to dig up those lines and locate them because they were put in the ground in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. Nobody knows where they are. Guy doesn't know where they are. I don't know where they are. They're somewhere in there because they're getting to that pond. And they're buried. They're 4 feet deep. We know they're there. We see some markings, but we don't know until we dig them up which line goes to which lift station. So there's actually 4, and we have 2 more going. These 4 lift stations are going south down Mooney. They come from Phoenix Square. They come from Mooney. They come from Arkansas Frozen Foods, which is number 1. And they go from 10 and 23. 23 is Weston Oaks, 10 is Holiday Inn. They all come in, and when they get to the levee of the pond, they get into a 18-inch pipe that have T's on it, and they shoot into these T's. So in low flow, that's not a problem, but in high flow, it's a problem. Because when that 18-inch line is completely charged, the pumps hit what's called shutoff head, which means there's too much head, they can't pump against it. And the pump, you can ask guys, they just sit in the manhole and spin. They're not really pumping anything. So you get backups. I know there's a huge problem. There's 2 issues to deal with: solve the leaks and get better pumping capacity. So we're working on both ends. The SSCS is underway. We had $140,000 for the SSCS. Obviously, that got merged, and we now have an $800,000 SSCS line item. It's on shown. Is it shown on there, Lacey? I don't see it on. That's the wrong page.
Well, that's not it.
That's sidewalk.
See line F2? We had $140,000 in my recommendation in April, and that's now $800,000 because we're expanding. Yes, we're lumping it all together. We have one big contract. He's got 8 crews. He is working. CES is the name of the contractor. The mayor signed that contract almost the 1st of July. Pretty much when Mayor, the first week or 2 of July. We immediately initiated the survey work. When that survey data comes in, which is supposed to be due no later than December 31st, he's told me he'll have it December 1st. I don't believe it because he's got 110,000 feet of line to go through. He'll never finish. In my opinion, he'll never finish because he lost 4 weeks. He couldn't get in the manholes, trees on top of sewer lines. He hasn't worked for 3 weeks. He's back. He's been working now for about 10 days, back at work. So I said a lot in a quick mouthful, trying to speed this up. I know everybody's fatigued a little bit, but I'm more than happy to slow down or go back over anything that was unclear.
Question?
So I'm going to ask you this here. Yeah, I have a question. So the $749,000, am I right? Am I looking at this right?
I don't know where you're looking, sir.
That's your estimate.
Yeah, 750, right. Some point,
Okay.
whatever that says. That was in April, yes, sir.
Okay, 750 in April. So will it solve the problem that we having in the district? On Mooney Avenue, Mississippi Street?
90%, but it's not going to solve it completely. 90%. We got to fix the leaks. We got to fix the leaks. If we can fix the leaks, then this will be a great aspect of that.
but we still have to find and repair leaks. That's why we have $4 or $5 million to fix these leaks.
All right, because, and let me tell you why I brought this back up. From you to Guy, from the mayor to Lacey. Yeah, well, if you got a problem, go home. I don't know what's going on with you.
Sir?
No, I'm talking to her. If somebody made some noise while I was talking. Okay, then. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, I keep hearing that I threw away $750,000. And it's been told to my district I threw away $750,000. But, and I'm going to ask you, you say this is going to solve 90% of the problem.
I think it will.
Yeah. And so I asked that for the simple fact is, if I don't have an understanding, if nobody make it clear to me, was this $750,000 going to my district or any one of the councilmen? I want to know what's going on and what could we do to fix a problem if they have a problem in the area. And we see that we have major problems going on in the area. So this $750,000 of the taxpayer money we about to spend, 90% from what you say going to solve the problem.
In my opinion, it will solve the problem.
In your
in the
opinion.
Mooney, Barnadour, Mississippi area. In the Mooney, Barnadour, Mississippi, Live Oak, that whole area, yes. I'm not going to say what's going to happen on J.W. Davis or on, Lovett or some of the other streets in town.
Those streets having
Specifically,
problems.
that general area that's had the most, in my opinion, the biggest problems. I think Mississippi Street's terrible. I don't know why. I wish I could answer that question. I'd have a Nobel Prize if I could answer it. But we're going to find it. Eventually, we're going to find it. I'm convinced of that. And I think this is a great move in that direction. Because when we get high flow, I will tell you this, when we get high flow, I'm putting a station in that's going to take the water, when it reaches 2 feet from the top of the manhole, it's going to drain into a new pump station, and that pump station is going to suck it down at 1,200 gallons a minute. 1,200 gallons a minute is about 2.6 million gallons a day. That one station will move that water out of there, the rate of 2.6 million gallons per day. And I believe it's going to do what we need to do on Mississippi, Barnadour, Live Oak, that typical area right there.
Directly to the pond, right?
Directly to the pond. I'm not going to tie it into anything. I'm going direct to the pond, which is 2,100 feet, I believe it is.
Yeah, that was my only question.
Well, we don't have $750,000 in the sales tax fund, so we.
Well, it's redundant to
Yeah,
appropriate. You know
right.
what you need to do, but it's redundant. Yes, Ms. Ma'am. It's already underway. It's already been,
Right.
a project number's been assigned, the engineering is commenced. We've done our utility locates, we've done our surveys, we've done our design work, we've got our pumps sized. All we're waiting on is the locates to see we don't run into something and cut a line illegally, like a fiber optic or gas main or electric line as we're going to the pond. After we get that information this week, we'll wrap up our design and we'll have everything approved and move forward with the bidding.
So how much we had in the sales tax and where we pulling the money from?
Well, why would you do it, Sam, if you're, excuse me.
It's already been approved.
You've already
Okay,
got
yeah,
it in the
that's what I'm
budget.
saying, yeah.
It's already in the budget.
Okay, all right.
So you
Well,
don't.
That's what I was,
Do it if you
You-
need to do it, but it's.
well, it's already there in the budget, so we have enough money there already for that
I'm
project.
assuming.
That's
we
why
should've
this
been
was
paid.
very confusing to be on the agenda. So in your report, in your budget report that you got last meeting is when you did
Yep.
your last budget amendment. So you only have $586,000 in the sales tax fund budget because this money was already taken and put in a project for the sewer
It
improvements.
doesn't look exactly like it because they're broken line by line, but that's the way.
Well, see, now we have a problem now. And the problem that we have, if this was tabled, you help me out, and I'm going to make it simple. I'm going to buy a car next year. I'm going to set me $40,000 on the side for a car next year. I'm going to table it for me to get this car next year. So what I'm saying is the $750,000 $750,000. This was tabled. So I'm quite sure I know you don't have nothing to do with it. If we table $750,000, what happened to it?
Well, I'm going to give you an answer. I'm not trying to, that money that the five council tabled in April, we presented back to you the same exact budget, and you did approve it in June. So it didn't go away, it just got moved up to the actual budget year of 2021-20.
It was in the beginning
So it
fund
was,
balance.
that project is now a official city project. It's funded, it's paid, the dollars are there. So you didn't lose the money, you just moved it into the 2021 budget.
Well, from what you done said in several meetings, and help me if I'm wrong, didn't you say I threw the money away or something? What did you say in
No, I
that
didn't
meeting?
say that. I
What-
said if we'd have done it in April when we had it before you, we'd already have the station operating right today.
Okay, well, look,
That's all I
okay.
said. That's 6 months ago.
Yeah.
It's just delayed.
Okay.
It's back. I'm not, you asked me the question. I'm not.
No, it's no problem. It's just,
It's time now we're doing it, and then we are moving.
okay, so we end up, we doing the work. So we approved this in
Yes.
July.
Well, effective July 1, that's correct.
Okay. And so it's amazing how it was tabled, and yet we still put it in the paperwork of doing the job. And now, and the darn sure got to go through the paperwork now. So me tabling this, so in so many words, I'm just going to make it clear. I sit here and table this for a reason, because I talk to the community. And so you doing the job anyway after I tabled it, right? That's what I'm asking.
No, I'm doing the job after you approved it in the capital.
I know, yeah. So you doing the job anyway after I table. And so, see, that's why the public need to know. And y'all can sit up here and you look crazy, you can say whatever you want. The games, yeah, the games that people play. I table this for a reason, you know, and now, and I don't know how, so that's why it's important for the budget to be broke down, where everybody can see what's going on. So see how you end up putting this here back in the budget after it was tabled. And so now that the $750,000, it should have been pushed to the side and never moved again, just like with Charles with the grant. We put $250,000 to the side for the grant. That money wasn't supposed to never move until the time for the grant. Now we done sat here, and I knew an issue was going to come up. That's why I put it back on the agenda. But that's why when Sam was asking to show what money being moved and how money being moved, that's why I was all for that. Because, see, these are little games that we playing with taxpayer money. And I was wondering why the councilman had asked that question about the sales tax, but I said, well, just sit here and wait. Somebody gonna give you an answer. So I end up getting the answer for it. But that's why I be so concerned, and that's why I ask questions, because it's the game that, I'm gonna say the administration that plays all the time, and it all gonna come to an end. You know, one thing about it, what they all say, the old saying, a dog that wag his tail, he'll find his tail cut off sooner or later. So, especially when he wag his tail a whole lot. So, you know, that's why I put it back on the agenda. I just wanted to see exactly how it was come out and what was done with the money. So, as a councilman, for the future of me or the next city councilman, that's why everything need to be what they say, transparent, where everybody can see and know what's going on. So I'm just going to say thank you for opening my eyes again. Thank you.
That's why the budget was proposed.
This is exactly what you looked
6
at in
weeks
June, and
before.
we talked about it in great detail, right there on that
Correct.
piece of paper.
That's why we
Like
had budget meetings that took like 2 days. That's why we discussed it specifically in this meeting, in the public hearing.
I think I said thank you. So real stuff, when I say thank you, that means I'm through with it. I mean,
Maybe we're not
So-
through with it,
Well,
because you've accused us
for
of
one
things.
thing about it, though, we're not gonna get into this.
Andre, question for you.
Jack Stevens, 43744 Scott Drive, to Mr. Spangler. Had the council approved this $750,000 in April, would this project already be underway?
It would be underway, but probably not finished. It's going to take 6 months. So it'd be underway, but I don't know if it'd be finished. I mean, they got to order the pumps, they got to dig the hole. It takes 6 months to actually build it.
My question, Andre, was this: since the funds have already been appropriated in June, with the item coming back up, how do we move forward with?
Well, what we learned was the item's moot, right?
Right.
Because it was superseded by what the council did with the budget. So you can maybe have a motion to withdraw it as moot. It's not, you're not really denying it because you approved it already in the budget. So maybe a motion to remove it from the agenda because it's moot.
Okay.
And a second and vote for that.
So, Andre, you help me out. When you're dealing with money and you table something, where do the money go?
Money goes nowhere because it's not been appropriated. It stays exactly what it was before that matter came up. In this case, what we learned is that was the action in April. It was tabled. But then when the budget came up for approval, then the money was appropriated. And the money that was appropriated included these same items, different dollar amounts. There's actually more money, I think, that was appropriated. So really, the action in approving the budget made this matter moot, meaning it's no longer at issue because you did something else. You actually approved more money for these same things.
Well, let me say this here. There was a hellified game that was played and that I learned tonight. So that's why I should have been explained, you know. So from this point on, and one of the councilmen said this here, if I'm going to table something, don't put it on the agenda. So,
Councilman, I mean, by parliamentary procedure, if you table something, it really should come back up at some point for some final action. Now, in this case, it becomes moot because the council did take an action on it in approving the budget. So that was kind of superseded by the budget approval.
so when you table something, what's the time frame?
That's the discretion of the council president when that comes back up. My advice is it's got to come back up at some point because there was no final vote taken on it. In this case, it really became moot because this issue was addressed in the budget.
All right.
Okay. We're gonna get a motion to, how did you say, Andre?
Well, I mean, there's many things you could do. Rather than deny it, which I think is sort of misleading to the public, you did appropriate money for these things. So I think what you're really doing is specifically withdrawing this item as moot, meaning it's already been adopted in the budget. The funds have already been appropriated for these things. I think that's more appropriate for the public than to just say you deny it because you really approved it in the budget.
No, well, we can sit here and say, you're right. You can sit here and say, I never denied it. I tabled it.
Correct.
So that's what the public need to know. But the city went ahead and did exactly what they wanted to do. That we sat there, approved it. So, and if it was approved, I didn't know it was approved. So that's what, and I'm gonna say it, and I'm gonna say this here. The games that people play dealing with taxpayers' money. So I'm not going to vote on it, you know. So I'm not, however you say vote on it, however you say fix it, whatever you tell the president to do, I'm gonna vote against it. So, because this is something that we talked about, and so from me talking to the people in the district, so it's like, and I'm gonna say it, it's like Chuck say, well, damn you, I'm gonna do it anyway. And that's what's taking place right now. So what sense do it make for me to have meetings in the community when the engineer gonna do what he wanna do and the city let it go on? So what sense do it make for me to have meetings in the community? It don't do no good.
This item right here was discussed in great detail. Do you not remember seeing this at the
Yeah,
meeting?
you and I and Kip, we had sit there and talk, but guess what?
No, at the budget. I'm talking about the.
No, but you know what though? But I'm gonna tell you, we could sit here, a lot of things came up. Yeah, well, and that's the problem, you know. That, no, no, you know, the engineer did exactly what he wanted to do. Not only the engineer, the city. So, no.
Make any motion. I mean, nobody needs to make any.
No, we got a problem going on. Well, one thing about it, the mayor and the administration, they ain't have to be in the meetings anyway, because it is a council meeting. And ma'am, you was out of order, for one thing, for even talking. You was out of order, so you need, well, you need to be escorted out the building.
Mr. President, it's getting out of.
Okay.
So Councilman, you can make whatever motion you want. To deny it, to approve it, have it for a public hearing, to withdraw it, to make no motion.
If there's no motion, then it would
There's no motion.
die.
If there's no, if no one makes a motion, Council President, you can declare the matter off or nobody makes a motion. We'll just record that in the minutes. You can't force someone to make a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
I get a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
You can note in the minutes that there were no action was taken by the council on this item. Right? So we'll just make that note.
So we got a lying-ass administration, what they've been doing all the time, but it all gonna catch up with them.
Meeting adjourned.